Let's do it.
All Grit podcast number 4. We got
4
2
people
new guests
for number
and we got
4.
4 people. And I only got 4 mics, so we're never going past 4. Okay,
This is it.
I don't even know how to upgrade. So, real quick, I'll introduce them. We got Paige and Lauren. They'll go deep into their background about the topic today, which broad view, we're going to be talking about body issues. Really a lot, obviously, coming up with women and what they deal with because we have women on here as guests. We'll go through their backgrounds and stuff. Both of them are actual CrossFit coaches, too. Paige is a coach here with us at All Grit, and Lauren's over at the awesome gym at Drew's Gym.
Shout out to Unrivaled.
Yep, to Unrivaled. Yep, we know it's an awesome gym.
Plug.
Yeah, plug.
Yep. So, all right. So before we start, of course, we got a little bit of gym news, right?
Yes. So the exciting thing, if you listen to the last podcast, which if you didn't, stop this and go listen to the other podcast. We're starting renovations at All Gas next week. So Wednesday, the 14th, 15th, I don't know the exact date, but whatever the Wednesday is, middle of August, we're starting renovations. This is going to kind of affect some open gym things, kind of affect the 24/7 access a little bit. So be on the lookout for your emails and on our Facebook members page to kind of keep up to date with that. We're going to do our best to make sure that everyone can still have a home at that gym if they so choose to be there. Worst case scenario, we have to move all the classes over here to Harborview. Don't foresee that happening, but just know that if you hear some loud banging, things coming down, the gym's not set up the way you're used to, it's because we're starting renovations next week. And the last thing that I have is the Trident Games. We have finalized all the workouts.
Ooh.
So, gonna be having some people test the workouts.
Hopefully not me.
Yeah, well,
No,
you're not gonna be competing, so maybe you'd be a good one. Yeah.
Yep.
Lauren's gonna be taking photos for us, so
Yeah.
You're probably going to have to test it with me.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll be busy that day.
I am not free.
Yeah.
But we sat down and we finalized all the workouts. We may tweak them a little bit, but we think we got a really good setup for everyone. Kind of showcase a lot of different things. And then we've got some really cool, exciting stuff up our sleeves for those 2 days, October 28th and 29th. Kids workout, trunk or treat, lots of things that we want to do to just get the community and everyone involved since it is a 2-day comp. So just be on the lookout for that.
It's a great one for also scaled athletes or like
Yes.
someone who, if you haven't competed before too, it's a great one. You actually
Yeah.
are doing true scaled, intermediate, and RX. So honestly, super great one. If you never competed, definitely give it a go.
Yeah.
So
A lot of places.
I like that it's 2 days.
yeah.
Yeah, like we don't
You're
want
not going to get beat up.
That's the thing, is like you don't want to just kill people. A lot of local comps, they don't do scaled or intermediate,
And
or
then
they do
kinda
one or
have to
the
choose,
other.
and then one person has to do it.
Yep,
And then,
yep.
yeah.
And
it's
they
just-
throw 6 workouts at you in one day, and it's like, I'm wrecked. Like, none of us are at the CrossFit
I remember one.
Games.
I was messed up.
Yeah,
We were out to eat at Mexican, and everyone's chit chatting, having a good time. I just remember with my little margarita, just like was messed up. Help!
Yeah, and like the cool thing is about this too is that we're not doing a final. So one of the workouts will be a 2-parter, but we're not doing a final. Like you get to the
Love
end of the
that.
day, no one wants to do a final, right? Like let's be honest, you've already done 5 workouts, and again, we just want to get to that cash money prize faster. So
Comp should not be from 7 to 7.
no, absolutely not.
They
So,
have been, and God bless.
When you're announcing the finals at 7 o'clock.
Nobody's excited.
I
Like,
remember-
Just take it.
yeah, just here's your award.
I
Let me
remember
go.
I had a come to Jesus moment. I was like, do I really want a podium? Like, it's a local comp. Like, I mean, what do I
I feel
have
like
to
I know what comp you're
Do
talking
I
about.
want to? Do I want to wait and get a
I
blender
remember
bottle?
looking, I'm like, okay, we're already here.
Might as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it won't be like any of those things. It'll be good. We're going to try to space it out. I'm really excited. And like Lauren said, it's going to be good for all divisions. And just like we've been talking about on our Insta, not everyone has to do all the movements. All right. So some of the higher skilled things that may be stopping you from being an RX, find a partner that can do them, and you're not going to be required to do all of the movements. Only one partner needs to be able to do all of them. So it'll give a lot of people an opportunity to kind of step up and be in some different divisions that they may not are used to.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm pumped, guys.
And the judging is going to be legit.
Legit.
And the photography.
And the photography, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing. You just
Yeah.
better wait. Oh, I hope it's good. It will be. It will be.
All right. So let's do the would you rathers, okay? First, I got 2 of them.
I'm nervous.
All right.
I know, I'm so nervous.
I forgot about this until Paige said
When
something.
you're
Show.
already laughing, it scares me.
No pressure.
Because the first one, I want you to visualize what you would look like, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
Would you rather have the head the size of a tennis ball or the size of a watermelon?
Well,
But with
are we
your
talking
same
a
body.
mini watermelon?
You got
or
the
like
same
a
body.
normal watermelon?
Like a watermelon.
Don't overanalyze
Like
it.
a big-
A big
one.
watermelon. Okay, you either have to have one the size of a tennis ball or the size of a watermelon.
Okay, I'm going to say watermelon.
Why?
Because I feel like that would mean, like, if my mouth is the size of a tennis ball, right? It's this size right here. How am I going to eat?
And no
I can't
hats
eat
can fit.
anything.
Take you forever.
No hats are going to fit.
Yeah, no
My mouth is not going to be able to eat anything other than crumbs. I just feel like a watermelon would just be more suitable to my lifestyle. I eat a lot and I wear hats.
I eat lots of snacks.
All right, Lauren.
I was so worried about this too.
I know, it's
and
not that bad.
I think that's it. I think I'm gonna have to go with watermelon. Yeah. same reason.
Same, I just want to eat. I just want to eat.
Yeah.
Probably watermelon.
You can't shovel food in with a,
It would-
a tennis ball.
Because I feel like more people have larger heads versus smaller
yeah.
heads.
Oh,
We
okay,
can-
okay.
you
You
can
have
adapt.
like a
We can
tennis
adapt.
ball head. It's
You could
like
be beetle number
nobody
2.
looks like
That
that.
guy that's like, just hanging around.
just hanging.
That could be you, but it would sound like, I don't know. How do you project?
See,
You're like, hey.
I said watermelon too, but I didn't even think about the eating thing. That's a good point.
That's
But
a
all I
fantastic
envisioned was I already have a big neck, so you imagine if all of a sudden my head was a tennis ball.
You're not laughing about it.
Going to class. Hey guys.
Yeah.
All right, question number
God.
2.
1
All
minute
right,
on the bike.
I made this one up, but I think it's good. Okay, would you rather have uncontrollable Tourette's or uncontrollable flatulence?
Tourette's. I feel like I already have a potty mouth, so it wouldn't surprise anyone.
I'm going to say flatulence.
Really?
Yeah, because
What is that?
gas.
Farting.
Because
Aren't you in college?
The medical term.
For?
I just think that I already fart enough anyway. But also, like, that doesn't affect my life. You know what I mean? Like, you're just gonna be stinky all the time. Like, you're just passing gas or you're burping.
Yeah.
But if I can't control my movement or the things that I say, that's gonna put me in a real bad spot. And that lady was selling farts in Europe over there somewhere.
You can
So you
make
can
money.
make
Side
money.
Yeah, I can make
Yeah.
some money.
Side
Yeah,
hustle,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Everyone
I like
has
that.
a side hustle now, you know.
All right, Lauren.
OnlyFans for farts.
Like I said, I'd probably do Tourette's because I already cuss a lot, I feel like. So I'm going to do my best on here not to. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise anyone.
As long as you don't do it in the first 5 minutes, we're good.
Yeah,
Oh, got it.
5 minutes they block us, you know.
Dang.
I would have to go with Tourette's just because
Yeah.
I feel like it would almost be easier to explain. And I say how it is anyway. So
I just drink a lot of
mean,
protein
a-
shakes.
Same.
a truth serum kind of thing would not do much for me.
I like it.
Oh
See, I was kind of torn on this because I kind of I run my mouth as it is anyway, right? And just
Yeah.
yell things out. But I figure I could probably, you know how they have the automatic air freshener sprayers that every few minutes they
You
just,
just leave it in your back pocket.
Just carry one
I
on your
get a
belt.
small one and just carry it
Yes.
around. So I just walk around smelling like,
Oh, like that fanny pack you
Like-
have.
it'd be like
Belt
crap
up.
and Febreze.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
Sometimes that's almost worse.
I know.
Yeah. Painted over crap.
you just gotta own your stank, you know.
You smell like shit and roses.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a good one.
All right.
No.
So to start off, let's go. Let's do background. So which one of you guys want to rock paper scissors to see who goes first?
Go for it.
Winner or loser goes first?
Loser goes
Loser.
first, yeah. Ah, dang it.
All right.
Yes, loser. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, loser. All right. So I am Lauren, or as many people know me in our little space as Learn. How that nickname got started, I don't know, but it has stuck. So my background, I lived here my whole life, out in Virginia Beach, and what else? Let's see. I don't really. I mean, my life.
Talk about
Where'd
like
you go to high school?
Yeah. Hickory High School.
And you went out of state for college, right? So
I did. I'm an only child, so I definitely wanted to get independence and learn how to do things. Like I didn't even know how to do laundry before I left. I mean, you're an only child, you know how it is.
Yeah.
And so 6 hours away.
Where'd you go?
Coastal Carolina.
Okay.
I was a health communications major and minored in journalism, and I don't use any of that now. So what I do now is I actually wear many hats. That's why this is very hard for me to kind of tell what I do. So I am an 8 to 5 human resources, which is a joke. I definitely do not belong in there.
your Tourette's might
Like
kick in.
you say, human resources. Are you like a human HR generalist, or like
HR
you have all
generalist.
the certifications and all that?
I do not.
Okay.
So I prefer my job how it is now because leading into my side hustles, I coach at Unrivaled, CrossFit Unrivaled, over where y'all have talked about him before, Drew. And I also do their social media. And then I also do All Gas and All Grit social media as well, too. And my part-time job, too, is that PR photography. So I wear many, many hats, and I'm very busy.
Okay. Well, back up a little bit. So you grew up you went to Hickory. Did you play sports growing up?
Oh my gosh, yes. I played volleyball for the most part, but I played a bunch of different sports. But my main ones I settled with were tennis, and then volleyball was my main go-to one. I thought about trying out for Virginia Wesleyan, and I just thought, I'm not into it. I'm
For
tired.
volleyball or tennis?
Volleyball.
Okay.
And so I was just kind of tired of it and just wanted to break from it and have an actual college experience. And so I'm glad I did that. However, it was very hard afterwards to figure out, like, okay, well, you go from being so active, like, you know how it is. Like, you go from being so active to, like, okay, well, now what do I do with my time?
Yeah.
Or, like, how do I stay
finding
fit?
the balance.
Yeah, and so, that's how it is.
So where'd you get into CrossFit at in there then?
So, shout out to Colby, because Colby Beecham, we've talked about him before. You guys have on here.
Yeah.
And so he asked us to come watch him over at, I think it was Open, I forgot which year it was. It was probably 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, actually. And he was like, hey, come watch me do this Open. And, I was like, oh,
That's
okay.
such a Colby thing to
I know,
say.
yeah, like,
come watch me work out.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love him.
at this Open. And like, we don't know anyone there. And so Clay and I go, and I'm like, well, I'll just bring my little Nikon I had at the time, and I'll just like goof around and take pictures of him. And Clay really liked it. And then he's like, oh, you should try to do it. So we ended up joining at CrossFit Chesapeake to start out with. So shout out Laura and Jess Ivanko. And so that's how we started. I wanted to really do a Orange Theory, I think, at the time. And so it's funny.
I know it's funny now. You're
it's
like,
funny
what?
now because it definitely did not belong there. And so, but yeah, I actually caught on pretty fast. And I think he won't say it, but I think he was mad that I got double unders so easily. It was like the first little fundamentals that were there. They're like, here's double unders. I was like, oh, you just go around, twice.
You just do this?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's cool. And they're like,
You're going to be hated on this podcast.
They were like, oh, you're one
Courtney.
of those. Yeah, you're not going to make any friends.
Courtney. Oh, poor Courtney. Yeah.
But yeah, and so we ended up really liking it, and then now it's become like just not my whole life, but
It's an everyday thing. It's part of you.
It's my lifestyle, and I've met a lot of great friends and women, and so I love it.
So you've been doing CrossFit for what, about 3 years?
About 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started not too long after that, and but yeah, it's it's funny looking back at things. Like, I don't know about y'all, but you'll look back at what you first did, or you think it's easy. Like, I remember one was like a handstand hold, like onto the wall. And I was like, oh, you kick up on a wall and like that's all you do? I was like, okay, I got that. I kick up to this wall. It was like all confidence, no upper body. And I remember I slammed into the wall and straight down. And that humbled me really quick. And so definitely leave your ego at the door if you try CrossFit for the first time. So that was a humbling moment.
So when did you get your L1? How long ago?
I got my L1 almost a year ago.
Okay.
And it's because a lot of people at Unrivaled were like, hey, you should. I like helping people, and I like helping especially women who are new and want to get stronger. And so they're like, hey, you seem to have a knack for this. Like, you should try to get your L1. You'd be a great coach. And Drew was on board. And Drew's a great coach, and he's a great mentor. And so I learned a lot from him, and then also from Sarah Walker over there as well too. I would just kind of watch how they led classes, and I loved how they approached athletes and gave them modifications. And so ended up doing that with Fern Cassidy over there, and it was a great experience. I really liked it. And oh my gosh, I don't know about y'all, but waiting for those results was
Terrifying.
so antsy, because everyone's like, oh, you're gonna get it, and I'm like, don't say that, you don't know.
Well, all the answers seem reasonable. So
Oh,
you're
I
like,
know.
I don't know if I got this question right
There
or
was-
this question right.
There
Like,
was one answer, like the one question I wish I could ask and be like, what was it? Because there was like three
What's the
of
answer?
them that it could have been, and I'll never know.
You'll
I'll
never know.
Maybe they're
Yep.
all right. They just want to see what you
Yeah,
put.
maybe.
See, I had the inside track
a
because
good point, yeah.
a buddy of mine, Brandon, that introduced me to CrossFit. His wife worked for HQ at the time, and he
Oh.
texted me like Monday. He's like, "Hey, congratulations!" I'm like, "Huh?"
what? I'm sorry, what?
So he had her check the score, so I already knew.
That's
so,
sweet.
yeah.
That's nice.
I was like, "Oh my god, that test."
God.
Yahoo right here when she did her L1, she thought it was. She's like,
I
"Oh,
thought
wasn't
it
that
was
bad."
really easy.
I don't know why, man. That
Really?
thing,
But I had
You're not
studied
gonna
for
make
like
friends,
2
Paige.
months
the
before.
thing
Yeah.
it brain fried me.
Yeah, I didn't do as I say, not as I do. I didn't study. I didn't even buy the book. I just took notes like when I was in class. Like,
Again, this is not how you guys
Yeah.
make friends.
Yeah, don't do that.
I stressed on it.
but I mean, I thought the same thing. I was like, so many of the answers could have been right. So it was just daunting to me to try to think, okay, did I get that question right? Did I get it wrong? What do I do? Is it this? Is it that? But
Yeah.
What was your transition like once you got your L1 done? What did Drew make you do before you got to run solo? How long did that take?
So I really like how, so I get super nervous when trying different things. I just want to make sure I do it. If I'm going to do something, I want to make sure I do it right and I do it well. And so he knows me. I like to always improve on things. And so I would just say, hey, I'm not comfortable doing this yet. So do you mind so basically what he had me do is I would brief. I started out with briefing, or no, we started from basics. I'm sorry. I just shadowed him. And so I would just kind of watch how he ran things, how he did things. And I didn't realize how much time and strategy put into lesson planning there was until I started kind of getting on the back end of things. I was like, oh, okay. There's
yeah, and
actually
you take class and you know how it's run, like because
Yeah.
you've been in it, but you don't realize the other side of
y'all
things.
are watching the clock, like
Yeah.
you're making sure you're briefing correctly, like
yeah,
how,
people think
how
we're
much
always looking at our watch because we don't care and we're
Yeah,
like, oh,
it's
no,
like,
it's
no,
like,
I have
And
I really
I-
need to start
and
the
I tell them,
Metcon
and
in
I'm like,
5
no,
seconds.
I have 30 seconds. Like
Yeah.
you were halfway. Like
Yeah.
and there's a lot of like, okay, how long should they be doing this movement? And I was like, I didn't even think about that. And so shadowing, I wrote out lesson plans. I would do briefs, and then eventually he just kind of would. I called him my elf on the shelf because he would like watch in a corner, and I'd be sweating.
It's a
I'd be
very
like,
large elf.
Yeah.
I'd be sweating. I was like, oh my
I don't
gosh,
know what
do
he's
not
hiding
mess up.
behind. He's too tall.
He would like sit in the corner, like on like the boxes or whatever, and just kind of take notes. So I was
Yeah.
like, this is so
I am
stressful.
stressed.
And if you know him, he has like kind of like an RBF. So I'm like, I can't tell if you're proud of me or if not. He's like, no, you're doing great. I'm like, am I?
Okay.
Yeah, kind of if I'm quiet, you're doing
Yeah.
fine thing.
Yeah.
So what did that take you? A couple months? 3 months? before you-
Yeah, and it finally settled in, and I definitely now have my personality comes through, and it's just natural now.
Yeah.
And then it's honestly very rewarding to see new people, and as they get better, and then are able to do more mobility too. So I absolutely
So
love
does
it.
Clay ever come to your classes? Clay's her husband, by the way. Does he ever come to
Clay
your...
got in trouble one time.
Was he talking
So-
too
Get
much?
him.
So Clay got sassy on me one time, and this was like in the beginning too, and
You just set your boundaries too. You're like, I
Correct.
gotta make myself
Oh,
known
absolutely.
here.
He was trying to get a little sassy on. He's like, why are we even doing this movement? I know, very unlike him.
Clay.
Very unlike him. And so I said, excuse me? I said, you would not have asked that if it was Drew's class. And he's like, well, I don't understand why I think it was like a snatch drop or something. He's like, why are we doing this? I was like, oh. I was like, well, it's
Well.
funny you say that because this was in Drew's warm-up, so I don't know why you're coming at me.
You're sleeping on
And,
the couch tonight.
Yeah,
So-
sorry, buddy.
We had a come to Jesus at home. I was like, if you're ever going to do that again, you're not welcome in my class.
Yeah.
And I told Drew that too. I was like, if Clay's kicked out, mind your business. Like,
It's professional.
yeah.
Okay.
So But he's okay. He's I feel bad because sometimes I do coach him at times, but for the most part, I mean, like, he knows to, be quiet and just
Just take it.
Yeah. So.
All right, we got your background. So, next up, and believe it or not, there's probably still people, because it happens, I'd say, every other week, somebody doesn't realize Paige is my daughter.
Yeah,
And people are like,
2 days ago, someone didn't know that you were my dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Who?
Hunter.
No.
And Callie.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
the Hunter thing doesn't surprise me, but
Yeah. But then what did Hunter say about me?
He said that you're
He
the coolest
loves you.
motherfucker in here.
yeah.
And that you're a badass.
He was like, oh God, we're gonna get kicked off the podcast. He goes, I like the way Chris coaches me, because he'll come up to me and goes, stop being a bitch and pick up the bar. He's
I
like,
love
that's what
that
I
kind of
need. He
coaching.
goes, I need that. I'm like, that's
like
great.
you
Hunter."
with Megan too, Megan Oliver.
Like, why?
Yeah.
It's not going to move itself.
Yeah. Are
Just
you waiting
keeping
for
it at
something
home.
here? Yeah. Oh God.
You can handle it, you know.
That's great.
We can talk about my classic comments later, but all right. So, Paige, your turn. Let's go ahead and hear about.
Tell us about
yourself.
you, boo.
All right. Well, my name is Paige. That's my dad, obviously. I'm 19. I've been in Suffolk since I was like 1.5, so that's all I've really ever known. Grown up with my mom, my dad. I have a twin brother. Right now, I go to Old Dominion University. I'm getting a bachelor's in dental hygiene with community health, which is basically the business side of it. I'll be a sophomore in the fall, so big, almost upperclassman.
Young buck.
Close.
Outside of school, I did competitive cheer for about 7 years. I stopped when I was 15, and then that's when I got into CrossFit. I was fully planning on going back to cheer for the next season, but it was the off season, and my dad was actually coaching my brother at the time, who started CrossFit before me. And I was like, I'm just gonna go check it out. Like, I didn't put too much pressure on myself, and it was super duper frustrating, but I found myself back at it. I've been doing it for almost 5 years.
I hate it here. I'll see
It's
you tomorrow.
very humbling. It's very humbling.
Yeah, but I got my level 1 about a month ago.
Yay.
I was doing some shadowing before, mostly with him, some with Melissa. And then basically when I got my level 1, Melissa was like,
Let's
your
rock.
turn, let's go. And so I've been coaching ever since.
Yeah, we started you out kind of early,
Yeah.
like integrating you with hustle classes to like
Yeah.
get you kind of spun up. But
You've done a good job. People really like you. So
Thank you.
it doesn't. They don't think that you're 19, so that's a good thing. You've
She's
really come
always
into
been-
your
Yeah,
own.
people
Yeah.
are really surprised when I say that I'm 19.
She's
which I
always
feel
been
like,
very mature. For
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I,
since I've known you.
I'm like,
Her-
I hope I don't look
her,
old.
her,
No.
her and her brother honestly are both that way, and I think it's because they kind of grew up in their young teen years in the gym and they were with adults.
Yeah.
And they learned to not be uncomfortable talking to adults. Like I remember
Yeah.
her brother one time, Dave Machupa was like, he came up to me laughing. He goes, "Yeah, Peyton came down it was during the election. He's like, hey, Dave, what do you think about all this Trump crap? Everything going on?" And Dave was like, "Wow, I can't believe a 15-year-old's asking me this."
That's hysterical.
All right, so you didn't play any sports in high school, though, right?
I did competitive cheer.
I do have a
which-
question about that.
Is cheer a sport?
It's competitive. I will fight for
Competitive
you for
cheer
this.
is a sport,
Correct.
but like high school and sideline cheer is not a sport. I don't think it
Hot
is.
take.
I,
You heard it here
have,
first.
I have
Fight in
done
the
both,
comments.
and there is a big difference.
So your competitive cheer. What made you choose that?
Oh, yeah.
Just
well,
curious, because
know
I mean,
that
I think cheerleading and gymnastics are probably similar in a certain amount of things. I think that
Yeah.
probably helped you in your CrossFit.
Well, my brother we had done like Pop Warner football when I was 7, but the reason why I continued with it was just I loved being part of a team. At the time when I was younger, I was more of like a follower rather than like a leader, like personality wise. I really liked that. I loved like getting new tumbling skills, was like
Yeah.
the adrenaline too, like going on stage and just like the lights and everything. It's so cool.
Yeah.
The conditioning and stuff and the hard practices were not
And
fun.
so expensive.
but yeah, and of
So
course
expensive.
I did not have an appreciation for the money part of it when I was little, but
I think those things like gymnastics, and I've seen people competitive cheer, like really kind of help you in the CrossFit space because
really
you're just
do.
way
Sure,
more
it's a
body
lot of-
aware.
a lot of body and awareness. Pretty relative strength too, like with
You're
body
lifting
weight
girls
stuff.
overhead.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
hard.
Yeah.
A lot of core.
Yeah, don't let them tell you otherwise.
She pretty much, I remember the day she walked in from cheer practice her freshman year, dropped her bag, and goes, "Dad, I want to try CrossFit when cheer's over." I'm like, "Okay, why?" And she actually said, I'm just tired of this cheer thing. I just want to try it. Okay.
Okay.
And her first night in the gym, she could overhead squat.
Yeah.
She could snatch PVC. Like, she just took to
Yeah,
it.
picked it up.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
awesome.
and I attribute that to the body awareness.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think there's certain sports that people have done, gymnastics and cheer specifically, and actually wrestlers too.
I can see that,
Wrestlers
yeah.
are like, they have good body awareness too.
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot of sense.
That is huge with
Yeah.
doing any kind of barbell movements, gymnastics. Like, you have to be aware of like
Time
where
and
your
space,
body's
yeah.
going. Yeah, and just how to move things. Like,
Yep.
you know, so.
yeah, it helps a lot. That's where you can tell, like, even going upside down. Like, I probably take it for granted. I could just walk up to the wall, get
Yeah.
upside down.
We really do.
But a lot of people get up there and they just
Yeah.
crumble.
Yeah.
So, Paige, the question I have for you is, how do you like coaching here so far? And don't you give me a answer right.
I honestly, I really, really enjoy it. I was a little bit nervous at first, but once I realized, like, I know all these people, they're all my
they know
friends.
You. Yeah.
Like,
they want to support you too. Yeah.
hopefully they've given me a little grace and like know that I'm learning and I'm still improving. But I've had a great experience so far.
Yeah. Oh, I love that for you.
Yeah, she
I'm
had
glad
so
you're
much
on the
fun
team.
within like the first week or two. She texted me from upstairs like she always does. Dad, do you want to split a hotel with me and wherever it was in Virginia, so I can do my
and
level
get the
2 in
level
September?
2.
And I'm like,
Paige.
Paige, relax. Like, let's let.
And then I'm gonna get my level 3 in
Right,
December.
like, let's this marinate for a little
Yeah.
bit. Like,
I mean,
get your
it's
skills
good that you're
first.
I'm
excited.
gonna be on
Yeah.
the games floor next year.
I'll go with.
So, all right.
That's awesome. I love that.
Level 2 is hard too, like, because you're in a circle and they judge how you coach.
I loved the level 2.
Really?
I am terrified.
Did you thrive? You thrived. I can see that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'd be
Well, because
fine.
I went, and when I did it, I went with me and Greg Talby went, and he was he was
nice.
redoing his level
Yeah.
2, and then Kevin, who coached with us at Tidewater 2, he went, and it was funny because when they'd break us apart, right, and I was nervous, but like, and I got Fern there, who I've you talk to him from time to time, see him on podcasts, and I was nervous, but I was like, and I kept picking the movements that nobody else wanted.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care. So like, nobody wants to do sumo deadlift high pull, and I'm like, why? That's so easy, such an easy
Yeah.
progression, right?
Yeah.
And I just went, whatever, send it. But it was funny. Everybody when we'd get back together, they'd say how loud I was because they could hear me. They could hear Greg.
We can hear you in our
They could hear
group,
Kevin,
Chris.
right? And I just had fun with it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? They're gonna. But I was used to that for what I did in the military. You get a lot of one-on-one criticism
That's true,
on
yeah.
things. So I was like, whatever. Like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Take it and yeah.
break me down. Tell me how I can be better.
Yeah.
And move on because
Yeah, it's not
that's
meant to
that
be
level 2 is
hurtful.
more to
Yeah.
be a better coach. So
Right.
I had a blast with it.
Yeah.
That's
I actually
awesome.
thought it was funner.
I really want to
I
get
did.
mine soon. I
Yeah.
just have to find the time to do that.
Yeah, get a little
But-
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Drew asked me if I was interested. I was like, yeah. I was like, give me a little bit longer, and then
Yeah.
give me a little bit more time.
Yeah, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and not care and just go for it. Get your
Yeah.
feedback
Got
and
it.
move on.
Send
Trust
it.
me, you'll be fine compared to some of the other people I saw in there.
That would be great.
I was like, you have a level 1.
I'll hang out with
okay.
them.
But there's, you know what? There's people that were there.
Shining star.
That didn't, there was people in there that legitimately weren't even coaches somewhere. So I don't know if they were just doing it to try to become coaches, or there's a lot of people that do their L1 just
to
for
learn.
knowledge,
Yeah.
right? Which I think is a
About that.
great
Yeah,
thing.
I agree.
There was a
Yeah.
guy that was like a tennis instructor for teens, and he said that, and he goes, "Yeah, I just am here because they'll pay for it, and then I thought it would help me with their warm ups and everything." I was like,
Yep.
"Okay,"
Yep.
and you didn't do that bad.
Yeah.
All right, enough babbling.
I
Let's get
know.
into the topic at hand. So let's talk about like body image and how that affects you. Both growing up as a teen, you're 19 technically, but you're just coming out of
Still
the
a
high
teen.
school.
Just a baby.
And
Yeah.
what that did to you. And for the dudes out there, you may have daughters, you got wives, girlfriends, whatever.
And also, it might affect them too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a
And we'll
thing.
talk about. I'll throw
Yeah.
some how it
I'm interested.
affects guys.
I'm ready to hear your side of things.
I might drop some bombs on y'all.
Yeah.
Tell y'all are
Don't
messing
make me
up the
cry.
dudes.
Don't make me
Yeah.
cry on the
I won't.
podcast.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Lauren. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it. What kind of when did you first start having like issues, body image issues?
It definitely started young. I want to say around middle school, going into high school is when I first noticed it. And I noticed it because it was just more hyper aware of like what I was eating and tracking things and making sure I was exercising. And it felt like, I know that Melissa and I kind of touched on it too. I had a very athletic, curvy body. Meanwhile, all these other girls had very teeny tiny. And so I just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to run a lot. I'm going to do all these exercises, and then that's what's going to help me. And so it was definitely not eating enough and then over exercising. So I was super tiny. Like if I showed you pictures, I know some people actually have seen it and they're very surprised because it's not what I look like now. It's actually funny. Jim over at Unrivaled was like, you've gotten bigger. Like, and he's like, I don't mean it like I'm like, no, I appreciate it. Like, thank
Once
you.
you're in CrossFit, that's a compliment.
Yeah, I was like, thank you. Worked very hard for it. And then it got progressively worse as I've gotten older. And then I grew up, so I'll be 30 in August. So I grew up with social media skyrocketing around my senior year of high school.
Yeah, high school,
And
college,
so
yeah.
it definitely became the whole comparison game. And so I just thought, I want to say this is what people strive to look like, and this is the ideal image. And so that's what I want to look like. And I didn't realize I was fighting against my own self. Like that's not how my body was meant to look. So not meant to be a skinny person.
So initially, were the images you were like, was it based off the other girls around you? Was it magazines, or was it like, what was it that kind of triggered that? Oh, I'm not skinny enough.
It was a little bit of both, and then just being uneducated on how to properly fuel myself. So it would just be basically a bad cycle. Like I would do a comparison game and then just try to fit in, and thought, okay, like it was just a bad mental health state, to be honest.
You have movies like The Devil Wears Prada, where the girl's like, well, I ate a block of cheese today.
Yeah, like there's honestly nothing I can really point a finger at and like that's what caused it. It just gradually just consumed my life to the point where it's like you can't even have fun in a social setting, being out and thinking like, oh, well, I can't eat that, or like I can't eat that because then I'm gonna, it just consumes you.
Right.
And so it just affects like your entire life. And so it got to the point where it's just like a bad cycle, pretty much.
So you started when you were about, you said 15, 16?
Yeah, around that time.
All right, let's pause there. What about you? You go ahead and you get into when it started for you.
I know I'm anxious to hear, just because your generation's just a little bit younger than us, so I'm curious of.
And they have to deal with way more
social media.
Yeah.
Again, probably going into high school, like specifically summer after 8th grade, going into 9th grade. So again, with the cheer thing, I had been a base basically since I had started cheer since I was 7, and then I made varsity my freshman year, like the competitive team, and they were like, you have to fly, because like I'm 5'2", and I was already pretty tiny, but I just got so
because at the time you were about 100 pounds.
I was 100 and I was 115
I don't think I've
pounds.
seen that on the scale.
I think that's like 2 of my thighs.
So I was 115 pounds when I started flying, and then it originally started because I just wanted to be a better flyer, just a better athlete, and I wanted to get in shape.
You got down weight?
Yeah, and I got down to 100 pounds flat by the end of the summer.
At what age? You said going into 9th grade?
So I was 14.
And thinking about that 5'2".
Yeah,
that's
I was 5'2", 100 pounds.
Thinking about your hormones, thinking about puberty.
Oh, she's going to get there.
Oh,
yeah.
my
I have so much to talk about like that. But just, yeah, it was because I wanted to be better, but it got so much worse than that.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, was there anybody around you
pressuring
that was
you?
pressuring
That's
you?
what I wanted to
Everybody.
ask.
Like when...
Would the coaches say something, or...
Not more... And I don't want to put blame on anybody because it's nobody's fault, but like as a flyer, like your bases would be like they straight up say you're heavy. Like
what?
Yeah, they're like, you're heavy. We can't lift 100 pounds. That's your fault that you're.
The
not
two of you can't lift 50 pounds.
That's
Come
insane.
on.
Yeah, but
interesting. Because like thinking about, I obviously didn't do cheer or gymnastics, but Bridget's told me a couple of times, like in the gymnastics world, how they would be very vain about their weight and like very pressing about like, oh, well, you're heavy or you're fat, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I was curious if the culture was the same, like from the top of the top, or if it was just like girls being girls and like, oh, I want to be smaller.
Sure.
And it also affects too. I'd think about this too, because we'd pay $400 to $500 just for these uniforms, and they're not really typically stretchy uniforms, right? So if you put a young lady in one of those and they gain 10 pounds and then it doesn't fit, you can't just go buy one at Dick's Sporting Goods. These are one-off where they make a run of like 20 for the team.
They weren't even stretchy?
That's it.
Even
No,
after
they're like
all
a-
those movements and everything.
No, they're like a polyester.
Yeah, they're very. They were. I remember them being very fitted.
Yeah, no, like it was like one of those things you get on, you gotta wait 8 hours to pee because it's not getting off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make it.
See, it's so funny because my experience, like I was not a little girl. I've always been pretty like solid, we'll say.
Ditto.
Yeah, I've never like
Dense.
my problem
Yeah,
started.
dense.
Yeah, like this is. I've told some people this. Some of my nutrition clients, I've told this story. I'll never forget. I was in the 6th grade, and like when they were doing like your health screenings and stuff in middle school, they would bring you all into the gymnasium. They'd like you'd have to do the touch your toes test. You have to do this, that, and the third. Then they would weigh you, and I will never forget the football coach was like the ones taking our measurements. Like again, not that I cared at the time, but and now that I think about it, I'm like, why is a guy taking any female's measurements? But whatever, like weight measurements. I step on the scale and it said 132. So this is in 6th grade. Might I add, like I was tall in 6th grade, not anymore. And he was like, I'm not gonna say the word he said, but he said, "That's freaking solid, Melissa." And I'm like, a 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl, like. What does that mean?
I don't think they realize how impressionable.
No.
So you didn't know how to take it, whether it was positive or
Yeah,
negative.
I had no idea, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just like heavy, and I don't think I've not weighed less than that since the 6th grade. Like I don't weigh that much now. I don't think I ever have weighed that much since then. But I remember for me, like that's when I felt different.
Yeah.
And not like in a comparison way to like people around me. Thankfully, I had some friends that were very similar in size, but just in a man's eyes, I felt different from that point forward. And then when I got into high school, I had some pretty bad hormone problems, and I put on like 35 pounds. So I was like 5'3", 165, 170 pounds of not muscle.
So you got a little tatered up.
I had a little tire on my hips there. Like to the point where like I burned all those pictures from high school. Like I don't have a single picture of me from like when I was heavier in high school. So I had the opposite effect. I got heavier, and that really, really messed with me versus like going the other way, trying to not eat. Maybe that was my problem. I always will eat. I couldn't control myself.
What I want to point out about the comment thing is like, no matter what weight you're at, people will still comment.
Correct.
And they will.
I think you know about this later, but I didn't tell you like straight away. I was a freshman, and this was well into the year. Like I was 100 pounds. I was super tiny, continuing to eat bad, and I was standing in front of the class in Spanish 3. I remember, and it was silent, and this dude just basically said a comment about how flat my ass was in front of everybody. And I was like, so you don't like me when I'm skinny, and you don't like me when I have an ass. So it just, the comments are going to be no matter what.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. Boys that age are just awful.
And I think like, and Chris, maybe you can talk a little bit to this, but like, I don't feel like our parents, especially our parents' generation, was very well versed for like women's bodies and like what that means to, like you said, what it means to fuel, what it means to make sure that you're eating enough. Like they grew up in the same thing we did, right?
Oh,
Like no
absolutely.
carbs, no fats, like, eat Special K cereal and drink all this milk because the manufacturers of those things are paying for the ads on TV kind of thing.
Yes, I agree with that. I never want to put any blame on my parents or my mom or anything like that.
It's definitely not their fault.
However, it definitely was, it did not help. I did not know what to eat, how much to eat. And so, like, if I felt bad, they'd be like, oh, well, just eat a salad or just go on a run. And so it's not like it was ever like, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z. But it's like your body's going into starvation mode at this point. So it's like that's why you can't seem to get it off, because it doesn't know where its next meal is going to be. So
Well, there used to be a theme, me being the oldest one here, there was a theme when I was a kid to finish your plate because there were starving children in Africa.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Like people used to say that all the time.
Yep.
And like things like, again, like you said, I'm not blaming my dad.
It's not
and it's
anyone.
the way I grew up in a blue collar family, didn't
We
always
worked
have
hard
a lot
for
of
what we
waste it.
So like there'd be like 3 bites of corn left.
You
And my
better
dad's
eat
like,
that
somebody's
corn.
got to eat this. Who's going to eat it? And I'm like, Dad, I'm full. And my mom, I don't want it either.
Yeah,
And he would just, well, fine, I'll eat it then. And he would eat it, right? And there was a phase where like my dad gained weight or whatever. And that like shows those bad habits. Like why? Just put a lid on the Tupperware and put it in there.
It's crazy
Somebody
the
can eat it
difference
tomorrow.
now. Mhm.
Yeah.
You know?
Like that generation of like women does not eat. Like
I feel worse
they
for
eat,
our
like,
parents than I do us,
correct.
honestly.
Like they eat like birds. So they'll be like, oh, what did you eat? Like, oh, I had like a bowl of cereal, and then I had some chips, and then I had like some swans or something, which is basically like a frozen dish of some kind.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Schwann
And so-
truck that comes by. Yeah.
yes.
And I always would get on her and be like, you have to eat more than that. And so, but it's like they want to stay tiny, or like, I'm like, okay, but you need muscle, like, and you need substance, you know, to be able to support yourself. And like, that's how you stay healthy. And
Yeah. So
yeah.
Lauren, you started developing this issue, that you started getting your issues when you were like 16. How did that carry over into like your everyday life? What are some of the things that happened? Like, how bad did it get?
So it is kind of like a trigger warning, and I don't even think that a lot of even like my close friends know about this. Like, you might not even know about this. So it started when I was in high school, and like I said, it just progressively got worse. Thankfully, I've never been hospitalized for it, but it so basically had bulimia, and it was a bad cycle of you basically start out not eating anything, over exercising, which is a thing in itself. And so, you know, that eats up a lot of your time because you're just constantly thinking about your
Just obsessing over
next
it.
meal, like we talked about, like calorie counting, that kind of thing. And so it's like you don't really have time to think. And so you get to the point where you're so hungry and that you'll just eat anything and everything, and to the point where you're past full. You're just trying to eat everything that's in your fridge or pantry. And it's like
Right.
weird stuff too. Like I would remember I would eat like taco shells, or that wasn't even mine. It was like my, apartment roommates or whatever. And then, I would get frantic and have a panic attack. Like, okay, well, how do I get rid of it? And so I tried purging it up, but I couldn't do it. And then so I eventually just led me to laxatives. And so you just had to take them to even go to the bathroom normally. And it would just be this bad, constant cycle. And the thing with it is, too, with that issue is, like, you can't really tell versus someone who has anorexia. So, like, I would just kind of fluctuate a lot. And so I do have pictures where I'm at, like, my super tiniest. And I remember one time, too, my cousin was worried about me because she said I've gotten so tiny and like my head almost looked like a bobblehead.
Like a watermelon?
Yeah. It was not a tennis ball. And so she thought there was an issue. But however, I was getting all of these compliments about like, oh, you look so good, or like, and people don't realize like, that I'm struggling, and they're just feeding into this.
Right, because they're feeding into that thing that like so many people think just because you're thin,
You're healthy.
you're healthy.
Yep.
Because I remember I would always get comments like Melissa said on my thighs and how big they were. Like she's dense. She's dense. I own that word now that I'm dense.
Same.
But I would get comments about how big my thighs were and how strong they were. And at that time, I thought that was such an insult of like, so you're saying my thighs are big. And so I did everything I could just to try to get small. And so it was just, I'll bring up this story because this is where you kind of realize how it's gotten to a point where like you have an issue. So one time I was in college and my roommate introduced me to Nutella, and it was one of those big size ones too. And I had one, and I was like, this is so good, but I can only have this one piece. It's not mine. And I kept obsessing over it, and I was like, I need to get more. I got to the point where I ate the whole thing by myself. I got so sick, and I had to walk all the way across campus, like off campus, to this Food Lion, buy a new thing of Nutella to replace it before she got back. And I just remember being so sick, and I don't think I can eat Nutella. I think I haven't tried to eat it since then. It's been like a few years now. Yeah, so it's been a while. So, but yeah, it takes you to embarrassing places and like lows, and you miss out on having certain fun. I'm sure you can agree with that too. You miss out on stuff, and then you just obsess over like, what does everyone else think of you, and like, what do you look like, and it just gets tough.
Did that cause other things like obsessive compulsive, like anxiety?
I've always had bad anxiety and depression. I just, nothing. I had a great childhood. I just think it's just like a in balance. So big advocate into therapy, things like that. There actually was a therapist though. I'm all for therapy. I think it's great for everyone. I'd recommend it to everyone, but make sure you find one that actually fits you, because I went to one and I remember she says, well, why don't you just log what you eat and see how much? I was like, you're telling someone who clearly has an eating disorder problem to log what they eat. So now we're obsessing over even more. And I remember I told my mom after that, I was like, I can't go see her anymore.
How old were you when you were seeing the therapist?
I was pretty young. I was like in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So your issues. So that issue stemmed prior to the eating.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What about you, Paige? Talk about, like you said, yours developed from cheer. How far did it go before, like, it kind of, like, it got better, I should say? Not that you don't, like, that we all look in the mirror. What do we look like? We worry about it. But, like, how far did yours go, and how was it affecting you?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start towards the beginning and then lead up to, like, I kind of have a moment like Lauren where I realized it was a bigger issue that I needed to deal with. So throughout that summer, I had MyFitnessPal, and I would track it. And one of my kind of rules is that I couldn't get past 1,000 calories before 3:30, which now is like
Morning breakfast.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Isn't it crazy how you set like little things like that?
yeah,
where,
like it's
this
weird,
specific number.
really weird little patterns. And I've had anxiety, panic, and OCD since I was as young as I can remember. Like, had panic attacks since I was 11. So I already struggle with that, and it definitely just added more stress onto me. And so I'm sure you can agree, I was like agitated all the time, like, and it's just because I didn't feel good mentally or physically that
And you didn't know how to fix it.
No.
yeah, like I didn't know how to express it. And so I got so tiny, and I never struggled with binging or purging or anything like that. It was just the obsessive calorie counting. And like you said, I would constantly think about what I'm going to eat next, when I'm going to eat next.
And not because you were
what's in
enjoying it, but because you were so
like, it gave me anxiety. Like, I wanted
You're
to
not in the
cry.
moment.
I was angry. Like, if my mom made something for dinner that I didn't deem like healthy enough, I was just mad the entire time, cried, whatever. But when I really noticed that it was an issue is when my twin brother, I think we were both in the living room. Neither of you guys were there, but I had just had like a sports bra on and shorts or whatever because I was working out. And I don't remember his exact words, but he looked at me and was like, Paige, are you okay? Like, you don't look good. Like, as in, I like to look ill. And so,
And her brother is sometimes a man of few words.
Yeah.
So when he says something, like, it means something.
yeah. And my brother, he's like my best friend. I respect him greatly. So hearing it from him really, like, turned a corner for me with that.
When was that?
It was
that-
towards the end of the summer, like August, September,
was
going into
before
freshman year.
Okay.
Before I started CrossFit. Yeah.
And what did that change your attitude, or was that just kind of getting the wheels turning of this isn't right?
It got the wheels turning, but I still felt kind of helpless because I just didn't know what to do at that point.
Yeah. My question
And-
was going to be, did either of you go to your parents, or like, how did you broach the subject of like, hey, I think I have a problem and I don't know what to do?
for a long time,
Yeah,
and I really
I'll let you
didn't
answer that.
acknowledge it for a long time.
I'll admit, as her dad, I didn't notice, like, when she said she went from 115 to 100, because when somebody's around you all the time, you don't notice that.
Because it changes
She's
very
not
gradually to
petite.
you.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, at one point, like, it's probably her brother, when Peyton noticed it, he was like, yo, you probably, she probably looked gone.
Yeah.
And, like, she was just rotting away. I never really noticed it. I do remember looking back now, and I thought she was just being
It's a
typical girl teenager.
Yeah.
She'd come down and eat exactly six nuggets that she would make, and exactly this and exactly that. And she would, she was asking me questions about weighing and measuring food, and just being a dad. And I'm like, oh, here's how you do it. And I didn't think nothing of it.
Yeah.
And she said she was using the MyFitnessPal, so I thought she was like had it set. And I looked at her thing, and she had it set right for like what she should be eating, but she actually wasn't.
Never
eating
ate that.
much.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know. So, I could say that, I mean, I'm not saying it's my fault, but like, I thought
It's
she
not.
seemed relatively happy.
Yeah, I
most
mean,
of the
I
time.
didn't really let anyone know because, like,
Yeah.
looking back now, I was really embarrassed about it.
It's an embarrassing thing to talk
Yeah.
about.
Plus,
to
she
even,
was in that beginning of her freshman year of high school, very, transitional time
Puberty,
in life.
Yeah.
totally different
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
So that's
yeah.
one a good one to bring up too. Is that how did it affect your hormones?
Yeah, so past like the mental part of it affecting me. So I got my first period when I was 13, and I had it for about a year. It was pretty regular, nothing
Yeah.
out of the ordinary, 7 days, whatever. And then after I had lost that weight, I lost my period fully for 13 months. I had no period, no symptoms, nothing, because I just had no body fat
Yeah.
at all. And then yeah, after that 13 months, when I got it back and I had gained some weight, it was
Did you ever
hell.
talk to anyone about not having it?
Yeah, but I never let anybody know it was because I wasn't eating. Like, I would just be like, Mom, I don't have my period. And she would be like, why? And I was like, I don't know. But I wasn't eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably taken.
And then
as
it
one
just
of those
kinda-
happens thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still have, like, 4 years later, I still have issues with my period now. It's just, like, kind of set myself up, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Lauren? Hormone. Let's talk about the hormone thing. What did it do as you were obsessing? Could you see a swing in how your body reacted when you weren't eating or
I was
eating too
definitely
much?
irritable, like Paige said. Just irritable, and also like how she touched on, it's a very secretive thing to go through. It's very alone because you never really want to admit it. And so I would kind of briefly tell my parents, like, oh, I just don't feel that great, or like, oh, I would have like really bad headaches and this, that, and the other. And so it was always very hard to come out to them about
You
that.
had a lot of headaches too. I remember that.
Yeah, like,
Oh, yeah.
even...
Are you
it
like,
was-
it's because you're dehydrated, I imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the headaches, and even like looking in pictures, like
I hated
I
it.
was so
Yeah.
pale. I was constantly
Yeah.
cold. Like my bags in my eyes, like you could see my veins bulging out because I just had nothing on me. Like I
Yeah.
had nothing.
Yeah, so it was hard, and then I remember my primary care finally said, like, hey, you have an eating disorder, and I was like, oh, okay, well, shoot. You know, what do we do from here? And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely a silent little battle you got going on.
Yeah.
You know, so it's embarrassing, but you know, it needs to be talked about more often, especially with women, especially in fitness. And so, because like we discuss all the time, like we have phones around us all the time, and social media, and the comparison, and like seeing these people that look like they're lean 24/7. It's like, that's not ideal. Like, especially how, like Paige said, you know, she got so thin, no body fat, that it messes with our cycles, and that's not normal.
And that's also not like, that's not always an irreversible thing.
No,
So
yeah.
it's a very, especially when you're young, and I don't know how many people like know this or even think about this, but we've kind of touched on it a little bit too, just with some of the younger athletes in CrossFit. Like, and I know we'll broach into CrossFit and how that affects body image, but like being super lean is not great for the body.
No. It's not
and-
sustainable.
No, and I have to tell a lot of nutrition clients too, like, we're not going to get you to 7% body fat. Like, your body is meant to hold a certain percentage so that you can digest food, so that you can produce hormones, so that you can sleep properly, so that all of your organs will work properly. And I think there's a big misconception on that, and like what that does to women's bodies and how it's going to affect not only your period, but like pregnancy down the road, and how easy or not that is when it comes to getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's a subject that I think people are seeing now, because we're the generation that
That's
like,
actually discussing
yeah,
it.
that and it's like face those problems with a phone in our face, like telling the world kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, and I think part of that is there's a lot of good documentaries, right? And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracist, but the truth is we have access to information now, right? Whereas 70s, 80s, even into the 90s, you
What
just
you were
see
told,
a commercial,
Yeah.
that was Bible to you.
But what you find out is that all this stuff, when they started coming out with
The food pyramid.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, and then when they started coming out with the low fat this, the low fat
Yep.
that.
Oh yeah, or
But
the
if you
100
look at-
calorie snack.
If
that
you
kind of
look,
thing.
Yep.
look at the ingredients on something. Just let's take Cheez-Its, right? One of my top 5 snacks, right?
Love a
toasted
good
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-It.
Yeah, right.
Extra toasty,
So,
baby.
yeah.
Sponsor us.
And hey, if we get sponsored by
I
Cheez-Its.
will put a box right in there.
Right. So, look at the ingredients of regular Cheez-Its, and then look at the list of ingredients on the low-fat Cheez-Its, right? Then look at the amount of sugar. So the sugar industry was paying and influencing dairy. The dairy industry has done it. They've all done it because they're all trying to get the product out there, right? It's no different than, Reebok or Adidas throwing extra commercials out there to try to get you to buy stuff. Well, now people have access to information. So you can see a commercial now. They can try to BS you, but all you got to do is Google GTS it, aka Google that shit. Google it and be like, that's not right. It says in here that 1 glass of milk has 12 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Like, why is milk unhealthy? Why are you telling me not to do this?
Oh, yeah.
So now people have access to information. Sometimes to a detriment, like with that MyFitnessPal, if you're looking at it and using it for the wrong thing.
And if you're not like, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist either, but you need to fact check the fact checkers.
Oh, yeah.
Like MyFitnessPal, if you put in your daily activity and all these things, right, like it spits out some numbers that
like
I,
still
as a
not
nutrition
enough.
coach, would never recommend to someone.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And you
Also-
wouldn't know that. No, go, yeah.
If you are especially like a teenage girl in any type of sport, you need to take advice from people with a grain of salt. Not everyone is a qualified nutritionist.
No.
Yeah.
If anyone is telling you to eat 1,700 calories a day, they are not qualified to be
Yeah.
teaching like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably burn that like just standing, like
Especially
this is
young.
where especially young girls, because you're growing, you're active, probably your body is just, we'll just say at its peak as far as like what's going on inside of it, right? Like after a certain age, the things that are happening inside change. But like, just to give people a perspective, right? And I have a really hard time with some of my older ladies that are nutrition clients. Like, your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, is what your body is going to burn literally laying down all day.
Doing nothing.
Doing
just to
nothing.
live.
And I'm telling you, like, mine is like 1450. And I'm not a huge person. So, and let's just be honest, no matter if you're fat or you're muscular, if you weigh more, your body actually burns more. So my basal is 1450, which means sleeping all day. I need to eat 1,450 calories
To maintain the
to
same.
maintain my bodily functions, okay? So keep that in mind. Then you come in here.
What a life.
Yeah. I just want to sleep and eat, baby. Then you come in here and you add 10,000 steps a day, a CrossFit workout. You took your kids to practice. You walked around at the office.
So how are you fueling,
Yeah, and it's not to say that like everyone needs to be eating 3,000 calories. There's a big difference in an athlete and a normal person.
We're not going to the games here,
Yeah. But like, we have to fuel our bodies, and I think that there's a huge generation that thinks that the less you eat, the better off you'll be.
or
In
you'll
actuality,
you'll
you're
get
just
lean.
like you're just killing your insides.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot like what you said, fact check on Google. Like, this kind of goes like with unsolicited coaching advice. Like, you are not supposed to listen
Say
to
it
everybody.
louder for the people in the back.
If you are not educated in the subject, you don't need to be telling other people what to do.
No, and I love
Big
that
facts.
page. Like, you need to, and I don't know if it's the social media age. Like, everyone just feels like they have a right to say something, but
Oh, yeah.
you can be polite. You can politely like, okay,
Yeah, be like,
thanks,
this is
yep.
what I do.
Yeah,
But you
and-
can't say this is what you need to
And if
do.
I tell you to do something, you can be like, okay, thanks, Melissa. If I've never rock climbed before and I'm telling you how to rock climb, like, okay, yeah. Like, listen to the people that are doing the things right and accurately, and you have trust in them. Like, you don't have to take their advice to heart either. You can just politely give the deuces and walk away.
Yeah.
Now, the good part of social media, though, too, like I've told Paige before, I wish I had someone like her when I was growing up, because she actually, I don't know if you know this too, but she basically showcased, like, she was working out, lifting weights, and she was gaining weight. And so she wasn't showing like, oh, I'm getting skinny. She's like, no, I'm on a trying to get,
Trying to put on muscle.
yeah, I'm trying to get, stronger journey.
Yeah.
And so I remember this was a few years ago, and I didn't realize how young you were either. and I was like, that is pretty damn cool. I was, because, you see so many people posting about how they're trying to lose weight and everything. I was like, here's this little girl who's showing I'm getting stronger, and here's how much I gained.
Yeah.
And not talking about just, like body wise, but also confidence as
Yeah.
well too. And like you carried it very well in how you approached it, and I appreciated it.
That's a good segue. I'm glad you said
I
that that way,
agree,
because
yeah.
what I was going to say was, I think as you, and I know she did this, she gets into CrossFit, and she got into it like to the point, if I was coaching, she was going and she would always be over on the side trying to learn double unders, trying to do muscle ups. She's over there working
Yeah.
and stuff, right? Like I got tons of videos of like her face
Little
when she'd
baby
get her
Paige.
first double under. She's like, "Whoa!" Like she's hoping I'm watching, but I'm coaching.
My
but,
heart.
But what that did is, you shift from, okay, who am I following on social media? I'm these
Yes.
unrealistic,
Yes.
like stick skinny runway
haven't
models.
followed
Which,
all
and
of
I'm not. What if there's a term skinny shaming? I'm not doing that, but I'm saying you're following that, like trying to emulate that. She shifted, as you probably did too, to now she's looking at these athletes that
Oh my
are
gosh,
doing
yes.
what she's dreaming of doing. And it changed her attitude from trying to be a certain size to no longer really caring what she weighed, because by then we started talking about things too. As I was, I would be like, hey, let's not stress so much about the weight. Let's just get good at the things you want to get good at CrossFit. And I said, you're going to naturally put on muscle as long as you're eating enough,
Yep.
Yeah.
fueling your body.
Growing girl,
You're going to get
yeah.
stronger, and what it's going to do is your natural peak genetics
Are
are
going to
just going to
start
blossom.
thriving. Yes,
Right?
yes.
So, if people start following more, how do I phrase this? What they want to be like with a mix of what's realistic, they'll probably get a better idea of how do I look like that, or without trying to say I want to look exactly like that. Like here's a perfect example, and I'll put you on the spot.
I have another one,
If you could pick any woman's butt to have, who would you pick? And I already know who you're gonna say. Go ahead.
Danny Spiegel.
Right?
That's
So, but in reality, is your booty ever gonna get that big?
no.
Right.
I would have to put on like 50, 60
You have to
pounds.
be eating
you
a lot
will,
of
yeah.
crumble cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as for a guy, that's like me. If I can't look at Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was, or Jay Cutler when they're at their peak,
prime.
because I'm never gonna be 6'6", but it's unrealistic to say how much. I know I'm not gonna put in the work or do that many steroids to get there. Right? It's the
Yes.
truth, though.
Yeah.
So with I think girls especially, and guys do it too, you gotta balance what are you striving to be, and what am I actually following? Like, what am I getting out of looking at a bunch of things that I'm never gonna be that, and it's making me miserable trying to be that.
And this can tie in with last week's podcast too, right? Like, this is a good shift of like when you got into CrossFit, like what did that do for your body image, right?
So
And so
much.
like you're looking at these women at the games, and let's just take like Amanda Barnhart, for instance. Taller girl, very muscular, like dense queen, love her. But if you're in your mind looking at that and you're like, I want Amanda Barnhart's body, but you're not doing the things that Amanda Barnhart's doing, right? Like we talked about this last week.
Like she's a full-time athlete.
She does this every day,
Like, that's her
6
job.
hours a day. And not to mention, just like you said, you're not going to be 5'11" probably overnight at 30 years old.
Right.
So you're probably not going to carry weight the way that Amanda Barnhart carries weight. And even alone from that, like, don't take that and just go, okay, let me find a 5'3" girl to look at, right? Like, are we all doing the same things? Chances are probably not. Are our hormones, are our bodies, like, are they the same? Chances are probably not. Even if you look at every single 5'4" CrossFit athlete, they don't look the same because they are all genetically different and their day-to-day lives are different. So you have to keep that in perspective
Yep.
when
Yes.
you're thinking about any goal, whether it's body image or something else, right? Like we can never harp on the goal so much that we forget like the journey that we're in, like basically to try and hit our peak performance, whatever that looks like.
Yep.
And I think that's a big thing for people. We have got to think about that.
All right, so I got another question for you, Lauren. Is that once you got, say, to college, right? Because you're growing up, you're having experiences in college. Was that still affecting you?
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
so how did having that problem affect you? As now you're we'll call it becoming a woman. Like you're out in the real world, getting an education, trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. How was that affecting you every day?
It definitely affected my self-esteem more than I realized it did, and my self-worth. It's kind of sad when you think about looking back at some of the things that you struggled with. I'm sure Paige can attest to it too, just because you wish you can go back in time. But I definitely had very low self-esteem and low self-worth. And so it's crazy how you put so much pressure on like who you are as a person based off of how you look. And that really affected me and my confidence and my social anxiety. And, I doubted myself a lot and just...
Did you feel just kind of everyday pressure? Like, did you kind of have a group of friends or girlfriends in college?
There was a point. So I did have a good group of girlfriends in college. But again, it's always like, you're just partying, trying to, like, we're all not really, eating and, you're just drinking, having a crappy diet.
So everybody's doing that.
Yeah. I mean, everyone is. I didn't have any, like, solid group of girlfriends like I do now. And I found that definitely when we tried CrossFit, because there was a bunch of different women and they're all trying to get stronger. It was never how I always saw it was like everyone's trying to get thin, or if you walk into a commercial gym, it's a little bit different now because I feel like more women are trying to get strong. But I mean, a few years ago, like if you walked into a commercial gym or Planet Fitness, you always saw all the women on an elliptical or stair climber or treadmill.
Just trying to burn calories.
You never see anyone in a weightlifting section, whatever, like that. But I will we did it actually at the Fitness of the Coast. I'm not to the point now.
Took them by storm.
Yeah, I'm at the point now where I love walking into like a commercial gym and just like repping out like strict pull-ups, arm day. Like I eat that shit up because it's like I am trying to claim my space around a bunch of men. I'm like I belong here. And so I definitely attribute that to CrossFit because you just see, I remember Kayla Harper, I saw her arms and I was like, that is so cool. I was like, she is strong. And I was like, she just looks badass and I want to look like that. And how I see that when I find a woman that I appreciate and I look up to, I just try to surround myself with those kind of women. And so I was like, you and I are gonna be friends. And sure enough, we're still friends.
What? Like you're only going to be successful. Remember this, okay? I learned this in the military, and I tell it to people. You're only going to be as successful as the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. And so same thing with Melissa. I remember Erin is my WOD wife, so shout out to Erin. So we were watching Melissa and Bridget, and it was at Kilo Crush Fest, and we were just watching them rep out these heavy snatches, and we're just like, wow. We're like, we should be friends with them. And then here we are.
Just making it happen, baby.
And then I even remember Paige at one comp we were at. Paige was actually in a division, I think, above Erin and I or something. And you were with...
I think that was Kilo.
Yeah, and you were just repping out heavy snatches or whatever, too. And I was like, she is, like, so badass. She's, like, so little. And, like, here she is lifting heavier weight than I am. And I was like, I have to find out who this girl is. And I remember...
Doing the search
and
now.
that's when I looked at her social media. I was like, that is so cool. I was like, she's promoting very positive, weightlifting and positive, like, muscle and, like, body mass. And, like, it was just very refreshing. I was like, I really like this space. And so I eventually just started coming in all the time, and I eventually stopped going to therapy, and that's why I always make sure that I take care of myself when it comes to mental wellness, and I always like to go into my local gym, and I get a boost of serotonin. I see my people, I get a good workout in, and it just makes your day feel better. And like you said, you're surrounded by people you love and appreciate and look up to, and so it's just very... I might never be at Melissa's level of fitness and everything, but I love watching her do what she loves.
Well, you're still in the same space. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you're doing less weight, but you're still doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's just a very positive space, especially for women. Like, at least my point of view, I've always had a lot of female friends that they're just rooting for you, and it's very nice. And so it's cool to see other women want to get strong. And I always make sure, anytime someone new walks in the door, I always make sure that, hey, it's okay to eat, and that's going to help you, and you're going to be able to move weight, and it's cool to be strong. And so,
absolutely.
At what age do you think you really Do you mind telling us how old you are? You might already said it.
Yeah, I'm 29. I'll
Okay.
be at 30
So,
in
and you've
August.
been doing CrossFit for how many years?
4.
4 years. So would you say starting to get into CrossFit, did that help you get? Do you feel like you have your issue under control now?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
And how much did CrossFit, like where were you at in level of control with it then when you entered a CrossFit gym versus now?
So it's funny. I basically started a little bit before Clay and I got married. So that was in 2019. And I have pictures of myself before I even started. And I was teeny tiny. And I just remember, meeting all these women. I was like, okay, well, I want to try to do this. And they were basically like, you have to fuel to lift these weights and you have to, put in that accessory work and things like that. And it's so funny now. I wish I could go back in time because I was like, man, I could have done, a sleeveless dress. I could have done some, banded pumps or whatever before I went out.
Real good.
Yeah.
Flex on 'em.
But it really changed my perspective of things. I'm sure it did with Paige too. I don't know. It opened a lot of doors for me, and I know Melissa and I talked about it as well too. But I don't think I've found like a solid group or myself since now. I would say this has been my best year. I have a long life ahead of me, hopefully. But I mean, around
It's not like the last years are the worst years.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
And so I wish, you could tell your younger self, like, it gets better and, like, you find out where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. But, like, I'm definitely happy with where I'm at now. And that's why I'm looking forward to actually hopefully becoming a mom someday because I'm actually in a very good mental space. So it's done.
And that'll be a whole new
wonders.
journey, and you can figure out those issues
exactly.
then.
Yeah.
So for you, Paige, I feel like, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you shifted from cheer to coming to the CrossFit gym and starting to like love that, did it shorten or lessen your issues too?
For sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like how did it change your attitude? What did it do for you? And how did that, like, let's say, how did it change your high school experience versus if you would have stayed down that same trying to be a 100-pound flyer in cheer?
Yeah, so like you said, just surrounding people, like the people around you, like-minded people and stuff like that. Everybody in the gym has always been older than me, and so they've just had different life experiences and advice for me, and so I found it really beneficial as a high schooler to kind of like repeat what you said about Peyton, being around women who had already experienced it and hearing from them. And like I would say now I probably have more friends that are 30 than that are 19.
Don't say that too loud.
We are 25 forever.
You're the youngest in your little girl
We
gang.
can't wait to
Yeah,
celebrate your
but-
21st birthday.
Yes.
I
2
will
more
go
years.
out to town
Year and
with
a
you,
half.
Paige. Don't you
Yeah.
worry.
We are looking forward to it.
So as you started getting into CrossFit, and you like within a week you were like kind of addicted to it. Right?
Yeah, like
you,
I was
You were
hooked.
there constantly. Dad, can we go to?
What
the
was
gym?
that transition like for you? Like, what did you see in her differently after that?
So
Oh, good question.
what I saw in her is that she constantly wanted knowledge. She was constantly like looking stuff up, right? And then I watched her food thing changed greatly because she was hungry, she had to eat.
Yeah.
So then she was looking at what should I eat to fuel my body, right? So she would, like most kids, they don't like vegetables, right?
Yeah.
She actually started trying vegetables,
Yep.
even if she didn't like it, but she was trying, right?
Yeah.
She was actually looking at carbs, protein, fats, but I saw it in a healthy way. And she was asking about measuring food, and then it changed to, and it was like this weird wave where she was eating probably maybe more than she should, but like you get that point as a parent, you don't want to tell them not to eat too much. You don't
Yeah.
want to tell them not to, because there's a
rabbit hole.
slippery
Yeah.
slope, right? And she was still dealing with hormone issues. And she actually, how old were you? Were you like 16 or 17 when it got real bad and you ended up going to the doctor and the doctor told you needed to put on weight?
Like 16.
Yeah, so it was right before what her best teen year trying to get to the games where she was shredded, but in a good way, balanced way.
Yeah.
But
80th in the world that year.
Let's
yeah.
go.
And she got, because it was right about the time too, like her brother kind of was like, because like then COVID started coming soon. So she actually I saw her getting kind of obsessive about the food intake. And there were a lot of the CrossFit athletes putting stuff out about what they were eating on YouTube and Instagram and whatever.
They eat a lot.
So
They really
I
do.
saw her kind of get a little obsessive, and then I had to start kind of like, hey, don't sweat that. You can eat the whole cheeseburger.
Eat the
Like,
burger.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. So I saw her, she kind of had to learn what can I and can't I do, and what's okay, and like, let's go out to eat. You can eat that whole thing. And then it got to the point where she'd come home bragging that she ate more than most of the boys they went out to dinner with.
Dang
And she
right
was
you
proud
did.
of
How
it.
you do that now?
Yeah, well, that just goes to show that like the issues aren't going to get better overnight. You still have a lot to learn and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I saw her put on weight, but healthy weight. Like I carry that picture around of her from day
I know,
one
you're so
when I was
cute,
doing her
babes.
fundamentals, and she was literally, we weighed her in, she was 101 pounds, to where now you fluctuate, but we'll call it 140.
Yeah,
plus or minus.
below
Yeah.
140.
Yeah.
And what she, and she looks healthier. She looks more confident.
Yeah.
And and I almost, like, I saw her too, she'd start talking about some of her friends that, like, they need to put some muscle on. They should work out.
They could use an arm pump too.
Yeah. So I tried to keep a healthy balance with it and not, like, push her too hard in one direction or the other, because it is a slippery slope. And if she was already dealing with not eating too much at the
When she's
time I
eating,
didn't know.
yeah.
Now I realized, because she was telling me one day we were driving home from the gym, and she was telling me how her bases used to say, "Oh my God, you're so heavy."
And you're like, what?
Like, how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Well,
F
then maybe
them.
you need to go work out, because I weigh 100 pounds.
Yeah.
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 Where are they? I just want to talk.
So my biggest thing, like for you, Paige, and I want to hear like what your thoughts are on this. So they made the comment you were like shredded and you were 80th in the world. How did you separate your success from like being shredded? Like that year, it's not like you were,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you weren't the best, you weren't 80th in the world because you were shredded. Like, did you have a hard time separating that? Like, do you look back and think about that, or is it just like, don't even think about it?
I don't attribute being that good that year to how I was eating or what I was eating. Oh my God, Kobe's here.
I knew he was coming when I said that shit earlier.
Yeah, because I've put on more weight since then, and I only made it that far because I worked really hard. Like I was doing 2-a-days at the time to get ready for that competition. So I don't view it as I was shredded and that's why
Good.
I was
just
it was because I
curious.
worked hard.
Yeah. That's a good mindset to have. I think that some people look back and they're like, or it's like the old thing, well, I was happiest when I fit in these jeans.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, those jeans
like
did
your
not make
coat.
you who you are. Like, come on now. We can all buy new jeans.
It takes a long time to think differently like that,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
it takes time.
And I'll tell you, her looking shredded wasn't. Yeah, it was just a result of she was very detailed in her nutrition.
Just working
and like she
hard.
said, she was often
I wasn't
training.
necessarily any happier.
Yeah, she
for
was
sure.
Yeah.
She was training twice a day. Not
Working
every day,
for
but
a goal.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she was it was a result of.
Yeah.
And
That was just like that phase in her life, and then once that training was okay, it's back to like regular.
I'm in
just,
college and I don't have time.
No, yeah, I mean like life
I'm
happens.
a studious lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because like I'm not in the same sense of y'all too. Like I didn't have the same issues. Like I've always just been heavier. When I got to college, I lost like 20 pounds. Like literally just walking to classes. And no
Hot girl walks.
Yeah, hot girl walks. And no knock on my parents. Like I don't know. Like we just didn't eat the healthiest. We're from the South. We eat very
Butter on everything.
butter, cheese.
tastes good though.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. When I go home, I love to eat that stuff. But just like being more active and walking around and things like that really helped me. And I wouldn't say that like I had the same issues that you guys had. Like,
Well, I'm glad you
but
did
just
it though.
yeah, like just always being bigger. I've always counted my calories too, though. And I'll never forget. I was telling Sam this. Like this is just recently. And this just goes to show like you said, Paige, it's not an overnight thing. And even though like we're in control of it maybe like 95% of the time, like I told Sam, like we're talking about having kids and having a family, and I was like, I know this is gonna sound selfish, but like I'm 30 years old and I'm finally comfortable like looking in the mirror at my body, and I don't know if I necessarily want to like give that up yet, right, to have a child. But then it hits you like I'm 30 years old.
You'll do it when you're ready. Don't sweat it.
Yeah. Well, not even that. I'm just saying, like, you're 30 years old, and I'm finally okay with, like,
Yeah, it's
looking
kind of
in
sad
the
when you
mirror.
think of it that
As
way.
someone
And-
your age, I completely
Yes.
agree with that, because then people won't stop asking you, and it's, when you've been on this journey for as long as you have, and like I mentioned before, it took me till literally this year or last year, I don't know, but like I'm finally where
Yeah,
we're like, okay, I'm confident in what I can do, and then so it's like, okay, well, am I gonna be okay mentally to give my body away for 9 months and like be okay with trying to rebuild and everything, but with such a good community and like support system, like, okay, like it's not as scary.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
but I absolutely agree, and I think you need to do what's best and comfortable for you, and I think you just know when it's time.
Yeah, and it's
So-
like, it's sad to me. I've made that same comment to someone, and they were like, "Yeah, I just don't know what that's like." And there's someone that's our age. They're someone that I would think is like a fantastically healthy person. They have nothing to worry about, and it's heartbreaking that you can get to this point and still not like love who you are, both like mentally and physically. And the girl that said that to me like mentioned how CrossFit really did help her, but then also it was almost like a catch-22, right? Like you come into CrossFit, you want to look good, so you get your hour in, you start losing weight, you start looking fit. Well, then it's like, oh, well, now my arms aren't big enough. Like, oh, well, now I'm not this. And I think we always have to bring ourselves back to like, what's our goal?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't make you who you are.
I know. I was just telling them too, I'm getting over a sickness that we caught because we were traveling to the games, and I was just telling them, he mentioned my arms. I was like, it's so funny you mentioned that, because I feel very small, or like I lost gains because I'm sick and I actually had to rest, and my body is like, what are we doing? We have to move. We have to get our steps in. Like we have to go work out. And it's like, it's okay to let your body rest, but it's like, when you don't do that often, it's very hard, and so it's mentally draining and it's hard. And like I remember texting Sarah, I was like, hey, like I'm feeling this way, I'm like, I don't know what to do. She's like, you're fine. She's like, did you work out? And I said, no. She's like, good, you need to rest. And it's so true. Like you just you do end up kind of getting addicted and like, oh, I'm gonna lose what I worked so hard for and everything. And so yeah, I can see where that comes into play.
I got used to like being in the military. You can't just call in and take a sick day. So I was taught, you start getting a cold, go run 5 miles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get over
Go
it.
run it
Yeah,
out.
It's so hard.
Exactly.
My mom would always be like, oh, well, if you're sick, like you don't have a fever, go to school. Like if you're that bad, they'll send you home.
they'll
And
bring
like,
you back.
I'm kind of glad. I mean, like it made me tough. So, but I mean, it definitely, like when I get sick now, I get hit hard. So I slept like all day. And so it was.
I get sick so rarely that I don't even know what to do.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
and my mom's like, go to a doctor. I'm like, why?
No.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
I'm not.
it'll go through. It's fine.
Yeah. Like I just give me some antibiotics, shoot me up with something, let's roll. Let's move on. So
Sudafed for life.
all right, so let's bring up, I bet we can attribute
Hey, wait,
this to
before you bring this up,
Go
can we
ahead.
take a quick break?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Take a
I mean,
quick
you guys
break.
can
Take
keep
off.
going.
No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep recording.
Okay, because my stomach is like hitting it hard right now.
Go.
I'm starving.
We'll take a quick break.
Okay.
All right,
Interesting.
so we'll back after a little quick break. You better now?
I was hangry.
Angry. All right.
I'm sorry.
So we'll keep the subject going, but we'll talk about, like, I think the body image issue thing socially gets stuck on women all the time.
Yes.
I agree.
Nobody ever thinks it affects dudes, right? But it actually starts young. And I don't know what a circle of girls really talk about, and I don't want to know.
want
Never
to.
get to
But
know.
like the way guys are when they're coming up, when they're kids, they can be pretty harsh, right? So as a young kid, if you're the chubby kid, like I went through that phase, right? Always got that inner fat kid trying to punch his way out, okay? Kids will just tell you, they call you fat, so then you think you're worthless in that way too. So, and then guys look, the people you're looking up to, like you're looking up to pro athletes, you're looking up at Arnold
Right.
Schwarzenegger, you're seeing that dude in his old movies, and he's in Predator, and he's got just giant arms.
Cannons.
Yeah.
And it gives you the same thing that I'm trying to look like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's almost kind of an opposite effect where women typically, and I'm not saying they all do, but they tend to try to be smaller,
Yeah.
where guys are trying to be more jacked, right? And the other thing that gets added in here, and this might feel like I'm running through it quick, so you guys can break it down if you want to ask me questions after, is guys a lot of times want to be the guy that the girls are going to like. So they try to adapt to that, right?
Yes.
So for example, let's say, who's the young? Who do you think is hot nowadays? Some music star.
Music star.
I know some
Mine's Royce.
Yeah, I don't have the music stars.
Is that the Australian?
Yes.
I got a picture of
Okay.
him.
That's
He was
my-
Do you know
So-
Street Horner?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
That's
when
my
guys
man.
hear the
Also look up Luke Hopkins. He's this 20-year-old from
Yeah.
Texas. Look him up. He does bodybuilding.
So with that, when
my
guys
number,
the
Luke.
same age, so guys in that same age of those girls, they hear that, then now you're almost forced to try to think, okay, I have to emulate that
Right.
to try to get that girl over there to like me, right? So there's that social pressure that women unintentionally put on men, right? And that's like one of the things I see a lot nowadays is I've seen it come across a lot of YouTube videos where they got a panel of girls or women and they're talking about they all want that, what do they call the 1%er guy, the guy that's in great shape, has
Yeah.
a crap ton of money, like does everything
That's called
right.
a unicorn. Okay.
Right, right.
a unicorn.
Yeah, that and
Probably why I haven't found it yet.
He's
When you're
out
19.
there.
But so when y'all are out looking for that, when I say y'all, I just
Yeah.
mean society
Women,
in general.
yeah.
I got my
Sorry,
unicorn.
I'm dancing around there. I was trying to get my flip flops off. The guys are trying to become that and emulate something they're probably never going to become, right? Because we're not freaking perfect,
Yeah.
and you have to at some point also become comfortable with who you are, right? And realize that we're all different. Everybody's got different genetics, right? And you can't be something you're not.
Yeah.
Right? Like just because you hear girls, for these young guys out there, you hear girls talking about whoever, Harry Styles or whatever. Go ahead,
Not
go.
that one.
Yeah,
go.
no.
I don't know which one's which, but
Whatever.
insert good-looking guitar
Yeah.
player playing
Royce.
music all girls like, right? Royce, whoever, right? They run to the
Pimp's
guitar
fine.
store, right?
Can
And they get
buy
a
a
guitar,
guitar.
and they want to try to play guitar to impress the girl, right? And then they see the guy, and they're like, oh, he's got cut off sleeves, and he's got huge arms,
Yeah.
right? Oh, now I got to go to the gym and work out. Right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the guys in your friend group are like banging on you that like you're too fat, you're too skinny.
So and so
like,
doesn't
you're too
like you
slow.
because you're this.
Yeah.
And so guys, and then you add in, oh, you find out this girl likes one of your buddies, so now you try to be like him and emulate that, right?
Yeah,
And
it's so focused on trying to impress other people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Instead of
And that's not your self-worth.
yeah, instead of just let the world be the best person you can be, whoever you are, and then let the right person find the right person for you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times, and you could attribute, this could be a mental health thing too. I don't think because guys are taught to suck it up and deal with
It's
it.
not talked about a lot.
Yeah, girls are taught to talk. They talk. You
Yeah.
guys talk a lot.
Yeah.
Guys are taught.
And we're talking
shut
about
up.
it more now, but men's health. I mean, I did a capstone project where I had a panel of different people and how social media affected their body image, and I had a guy on there, and I think men's mental health is not talked about a lot. I know plenty of guys that have issues, bless you, and plenty of guys that have body image issues and things like, and they're grown men. And then I will shout out to AJ. He does post positive things about men's mental health,
really
and
does.
I applauded him for that. I was like, that's big, because it's not talked about a lot, because like you said, they're taught to suck it up. And even Clay kind of dealt with it a little bit, because he was actually a chunky little tater tot when he was younger too, and he actually got bullied for it. And it makes me so sad now, because I'm like, it's things like that stick with you, and I understand that. And so, but I think it needs to be brought up more, like what AJ's doing and like what you're talking about right now with men's mental health, and also like eating disorders or like body image issues. Like it's definitely just as bad as women's, but it's not. It's kind of like taboo in a way, I guess. So
Yeah, because it was like you were saying. So like I grew up. I'm half German, half Portuguese, right? Most of their food is not healthy.
Yeah.
right?
But so
And-
good.
And my mom actually cooked as if we grew up in the South, biscuits and gravy and stuff like that. So I look back and there was these weird times where like my dad would tell me, oh, you got to finish all that on your plate, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, later tell me I should lose weight because, I'm getting chubby, or things like that, or going even wrestling, football, any sport.
You gotta make weight.
Yeah, you got to be
Yeah.
a certain size.
And it's not brought to you like with kinder words. It's more harsh and more of like direct.
There's
and it's
definitely
not-
less like
yeah.
thought
And
in what goes to
there's
what's said to
like,
guys.
Yeah, and if you did have problems, it's very rare that, you know, you see a guy that's like, oh, well, maybe we should go talk to someone about it. It's like, it's a lot of it, I feel men internalize a lot of things, and it
We
kind of
internalize everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
We don't want you all to think we're weak.
and it
Yeah.
eats away at them. And I think that's something that's an issue on its own. But I mean, yeah, men do have standards, and they're just as affected by social media as other
I've
people.
watched guys spit into a gallon
Oh yeah, we're
jug.
the wrestlers. Yeah.
Because they're like, every little bit of water I can
Yep.
get out of my body to make
I thought
weight.
that was wild.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
Wild.
like they won't eat. They'll go run with like, you know,
Garbage bags wrapped
yes,
around them.
yeah. And it's crazy to me.
And that probably affects their
This is
hormones
going to
and
sound
stuff,
crazy too, but my nail lady was telling me about her son who's wrestling, and she's concerned about his weight because he's, you know, wrestling with guys bigger than him, but they want him to cut this much weight before the season starts so he can wrestle in this weight class. And she's like, Melissa, he's not eating. And they sweat for 3 hours a day, and he comes home and he doesn't have the energy to eat, or he's dehydrated. And, you know, thankfully for her, she's looking at this like ahead of things. Like, it's not gotten too far. I'm hoping that like she can maybe steer or teach him or help him go a different
Yeah.
direction. But
But the good thing is now there's coaches out there, because tell your story about when you remember when you switched to Ollie for 4 months.
Oh yeah, so I took some time off from CrossFit to train at East Coast Gold.
Oh yeah, I remember you did that.
All good things about them. And I was doing my first actual like weightlifting meet, and her name is Nicole. I was trying to compete. I'm in 64 now. I think I was trying to go to like 59,
59 or whatever it is,
whatever it
kilos.
was.
Yeah.
And it was really stressing me out. Because weightlifting training for it is like 2+ hours a day. So I was like, I need to eat. I just cannot make the weight. And it was stressing me out so much. And I texted her, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I need to go up. And she was like, okay. And that was just that.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't a big
She
deal.
asked
It wasn't
me about
anything.
it. I said, talk to Nicole, because I pulled up the numbers for national qualifiers.
Yeah, to know what you
and I was
need
like,
to hit
Paige, you're
and-
fine.
Yeah.
The numbers aren't that different. I said, talk to your coach.
yeah.
Because I knew Nicole enough to know that like none of the coaches at East Coast Gold were stressing
Yeah.
the weight thing, because they had already,
they have
had
very,
already told her brother
they have
to
very
move up.
educated people on stuff like that,
Yeah.
like men and women.
Yeah.
That's a
Good.
big
and I love
thing,
that Nicole
too.
did that. She was like, okay, yeah, you're strong
Cool.
enough. Just move
Yeah.
up. Don't sweat that. That
Yeah.
way you can eat. You ain't got to worry about it. And they did the same thing with my son.
Yeah.
You know, he was like,
Because we're not so competitive that it like is the end of our career for us.
Yeah.
Like if
And
we
right.
need to
Yeah.
move, it's fine.
and
Yeah.
the irony with that is you moved up a weight class, and what happened?
I won 3 state records.
Exactly.
See?
So did you find anything with Peyton maybe growing up where like he was having body image issues, or do you think it was all internalized like you're saying guys
You know,
do?
I don't know. I'd probably have to ask him. I could say that once he got into CrossFit, it was more of, you know, he wanted to be able to do everything in the gym.
Yeah.
And a lot of things did come to him really easy. And then it did create he wants to be bigger. Right.
That's most
And-
guys too.
Yeah.
It is.
And I did see it a little bit when he was ramping up to go to nationals both times, is he'd be sitting there eating and he just looked miserable.
I can't eat anymore.
I was like, you okay, dude? He's like, I'm just so tired of eating.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
Well,
he
we-
needed the calories, he needed the fuel.
Yeah.
So
We like to compare him to Jack Harlow. Like my brother would
Aw.
just like with a regular shirt on, you're like
just normal dude.
Normal dude, yeah.
And he like clean and jerks like what, like 250 or something like that.
I mean, I think the most
More
he had
than
a
that.
297 one day.
Oh.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Or 275.
Yeah, so sorry, yeah.
275, somewhere like that, yeah. And he's very unassuming. But yeah, I saw some of those issues, but I guess if you could say they were positive, they were kind of more positive because he had goals in mind, but he wouldn't sweat it, you know? And like now,
He
you
didn't
know,
have so much pressure on
yeah,
himself.
Do you think he has anxiety similar to you? Like any OCD or anxiety
Yeah.
traits? Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's lucky in that he's a little more mellow and he won't say a lot. But if you get him talking, he'll
Yeah.
talk and very mature. Now he's been eating pretty healthy lately because he used to just there was a while he would just eat whatever he wanted because he's that kid. If he came back to CrossFit in 30 days, he'd have a 6-pack, shredded, strict ring muscle. He's just his metabolism is just his genetics,
Yeah,
like the way
yeah.
it turned out. And I'm glad for him that it works that way. But he's actually eating well-balanced, healthy. Like he cooks rice every night to get ready for the next day. He grabs his protein, and he's like actually trying to take
prepare.
Yeah.
And like he's asking, hey, how come we don't have the protein drinks in the house anymore? So I need to go to Sam's Club and get them. But I think he's got some pretty decent habits because he knows what's good and what's bad.
Right.
And he's not like he's not even eating Doritos or anything anymore.
What?
Yeah.
I love Doritos.
Yeah.
Well, because
I was gonna say-
he's in the fire academy.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he has to pack
He has
food every
goals.
day and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like
So he's
that.
they got the PT at the academy, and he's still trying to come home. He's kind of following his programming, but I also told him, hey, don't sweat it. Just lift a little. I said, you've qualified for nationals for Olympic weightlifting with you. That's never going to leave. You
Yeah,
have the
you have
skill.
that, yeah.
You may not lift as much right now, but you're always going to have that there if you want to go back to it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if it's caused. He has some anxiety too, but I'll tell you, not to get too much into his business, but he dealt with it too. And on the flip side of it, I think sometimes some of these therapists and doctors try to throw pills at you. Some people need them, some people don't.
There's more than one ways to
Yeah.
cope with
For him,
things.
he realized he didn't like it. He became too lethargic and unmotivated, so he weaned off whatever he was taking, and and he's better, and he's, I don't know. I think I've answered the question, but you know, he's dealt with his own stuff, but not, I don't think, nearly to the level that like Paige did in her time. But you know,
It's funny because like Sam has two little brothers, and if you've met Sam's brothers, you think that one of them doesn't belong. Like, not because they don't look alike facially, but because he's a lot thinner than Ben and Sam, the two older brothers. And it's funny because I was an only child, like Lauren said. Like, I've always grown up just me. I've never had to really worry about a sibling. But when I first started dating Sam, and like little baby Willers was, 15, 16 years old, like, he was little, and he's always been that way. And it was very eye-opening to me that his brothers would pick on him for being the smallest. And I had to me, I'm not gonna not say what's on my mind, so I had to be the one that's like, you don't know what that's doing to him. Like,
We love
Good
you,
for
Will.
you.
yeah, like I love you. He's a good kid. He's a great kid, and like he's doing really well now. But when he was younger, I had to remind Sam, I'm like, he's very impressionable.
Yeah.
And like Sam's parents did a great job with like
is he the one that's
balancing.
dropped in sometimes with his girlfriend?
That's Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that look like twins.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Ben. Yeah. So Will, like, it was. The thing of it is like Sam and Ben always loved like lifting and sports and things like that, and Will had the same love for that, maybe just not at the same magnitude, but it was great to see him. And I think this applies for most guys. Like, if you're struggling with something, like you're not being something, like you need to find your niche. And so he found his niche in like skiing and like snow skiing and water skiing and like being a little bit more of an adrenaline junkie and like doing flips
Called
and
alternative
tricks.
sports.
Yeah,
and it's
and he's
like,
having fun doing it.
and he was a good weight for that because like Sam and Ben can't flip upside down because they're too heavy.
They dance.
Yeah, so like Will
break my
found
neck.
Will found a way to like create his own little niche of success between him and his brothers.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard thing for guys sometimes, is like you said, we value success and we visualize success, and we visualize like what women want as something totally different that we may not ever get to.
Yeah.
Like Will when he was little, he weighed the same as me. I don't know if that hurt my feelings or his feelings.
Yeah.
But like, he's never gonna be 200 pounds, like probably
How much
ever.
younger is he than Sam?
He's 6 years younger than Sam. Yeah. And I think 4 years
Well, see,
younger
I think
than
for
Benny.
guys too, for that, like it's you could still say body image, but image overall.
Image overall,
Like everybody's, when you're growing up, you're trying to find yourself, right? So like when he was young, I just threw him into Pop Warner football because I love football, right?
Yeah.
And he was decent at it. He played 4 out of 5 years. He didn't play the year I was on deployment. And then that's what got Paige into cheer too, because it was kind of like, well, like literally
We're
we
already
signed her up
here.
for cheer because we're already here. Give her something to do too. He took to it like he was decent. He was good anywhere you put him. He didn't care. He just wanted to. He was solid at wherever you put him. Right. Not a superstar. I wasn't the coach that just makes your son the quarterback. That's dumb. You get in where you fit in. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it came towards the end of, I was going into the last year, I had become the head coach because my buddy Danny, who was, he's like, hey man, it's your turn. Because it's a lot to deal with parents. And all them
Yes,
kids,
it
right?
is.
So going into that year, I was feeling burned out with it. So I had a heart-to-heart with him. I said, hey, do you want to play this year? He goes, yeah, I want to play. He's like, I've already committed to it, but this is going to be kind of my year to figure out, is this my thing, right?
Yeah.
And as it's kind of like, long story short, to wrap that up, is that he likes football. He keeps up with who's winning. He'll watch games with me, all that. But he just realized, hey, playing isn't my thing. You know, he's 5'9".
It doesn't bring him
he's like,
joy.
Yeah, almost 5'10". He's not violent by nature unless he's pushed. And there's a funny story about that I can tell some other time, when he cracked a kid at school and got suspended. But hey, he was defending himself.
Hey,
He was
that's
pushed
right.
to the
That's
limit.
right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the other time he got mad at one of her ex-boyfriends. I thought he was going to go hunt him down. But
That's what big brothers do.
I know. I would do that for you, too.
I guess what I realized is what I'd recommend to parents is, like, no matter what sport you love, your kid may not end up loving it, you know? And I'm glad he played. We had fun spending time together, just like Paige and I do with CrossFit. But when it came time to really say, okay, is this your thing?
Yeah.
Are you going to keep playing?
Right.
And when he said, I think I'm good now. Okay, cool. Good.
Move
And it
on.
worked out, because I was kind of burned out on coaching too, because it's a lot to deal with in that season, even though
Yeah.
it's a short season. So I'm glad I dealt with it the way I did, because I think parents can have a lot of negative impact on their kids by continuing to push. And I see a lot of parents out there, and parents, if you're doing this, I'm not faulting you. It's your family. You do what you want. But I think sometimes some of these kids are pushed too much.
Oh, absolutely.
And like,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
see some of these kids, and they may be great at that sport, but you see them playing baseball all year. Like, why are we not letting them try football, try wrestling,
Yeah.
try basketball, try
They get
track?
burnt out.
Do some other things and, like, experience other pieces of life. And I think you see a lot of burnout because of that. And I've met a lot of people in the CrossFit space that played a sport and were pushed so hard they did burn out. And you never know, if you'd have throttled back a little bit, would they have gotten even better with it, right? Like,
You see that with a lot of the CrossFit Games athletes that have been pulling out, like
Yes.
Haley Adams, and then even I know it's shocking when Mal O'Brien did the same thing too. It's a lot of pressure, and then I know Haley.
Did you watch that video recently of her explaining why she left?
No,
I did
I haven't
not,
seen
no.
it.
No, it's of Haley. Yeah, it's on YouTube. She explains
I know.
everything, and it was mental health.
Really?
Yep.
I believe that.
It's
I
a
believe
lot
it.
of pressure.
It's a standard.
And then, a lot of eyes on you. And I know she struggled with body image issues. And so it goes to show you, even when you think like, hey,
They
looking this
put
way.
together, yeah.
looking this way is going to make me happy. That's not what it's about.
Right.
But my thing for you too is like, what would you say to, a younger guy that is impressionable by all of that? Like, what advice would you give younger men?
I would tell them to step back and, again, relax. You're going to figure out where you fit
Right.
in life, right? And yeah, if you want to work out, go work out, but temper your enthusiasm and realize you're not going to get these results to be just like that dude. You probably never will be, right?
Right.
So let's figure out, how do we focus our energy to be the best of what we can be. So, like, as an example,
And what you enjoy.
yeah, when
Yeah.
Peyton decided he wasn't going to play football anymore, I had just started coaching CrossFit also. I said, okay, we'll check it out. Going into, I think you guys were going, you were going into your freshman year when he started. I said, well, you're going to start coming to the gym with me, because I had, the deal I had there, you had a +1.
Yeah.
So I said, you're just not going to sit there and play video games all the time and
Right.
turn it into a tub of goo, right? So I think what I instilled is a positive thing, that, you can do things like play video games, watch movies, be into this, be into that, and he's getting his fitness in, and he's still healthy, right? He can watch what you eat a little bit, eat like a
Right.
normal person, eat good food.
What did Dan
And
say?
he's-
Everything in moderation?
Yeah.
Yeah, even moderation.
Even moderation, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think I've instilled, and that's what I would tell other young men too, is like, find some fitness. I mean, even if like is silly, or some dudes might make fun of it, go play that, what are they, the frisbee golf they're doing at the park?
Disc golf.
Disc golf. Go
Or
get out-
pickleball. Let's go.
You can get out there and find some way to stay healthy, and you'll figure out where you fit in life. I think girls mature faster. They find where they fit faster, but you're still always learning in life.
Oh yeah.
Like Paige, some of the girls she's become friends with at this gym here, they're all older than her, and I've heard she goes to them and tell them about her life, and they give her advice, and I think it's a great perspective to get it from somebody that's 24, 27,
Absolutely.
30,
I know I've given you
45.
unsolicited dating advice.
Yeah, and they all do that. So I think I would tell a young man maybe a little bit of Peyton's story, and don't try to change just to impress that girl.
Yeah.
Don't try to change just to be that dude on that poster.
To impress your dad, to like make
Yeah.
someone happy. Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
but it's tough, because where are they getting that pressure from? If it's their dad beating on them to be this great baseball player, what if they hate baseball?
It's
And so that's where I've heard kids tell me things, some of Peyton's friends, and I want to just grab their dads and like shake them and be like, what are you doing
to your kid?
You're
Yeah.
forcing your son to do something he doesn't want to do.
And
it's
it also
sad.
leads back to like, was their dad like that too? And then so it's like there's like a cycle of just trying to instill toughness in a man, and it's like I get it. Like you want your son to try to push to be the best and like do his best, but it's like there's some things where it's like it just goes too far.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
See a lot of good stuff here to take in.
Yeah.
I think people just need to take a step back and realize you're just trying to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be somebody else.
Well, Lauren said it. You said it best, Lauren. Like, it's crazy to think that we're 30 years old now, and
Kinda sad.
like,
Shut. I would love to still be 30.
like you're just like I feel like I just am being who I was meant to be, and I think sometimes we get caught up in like how like we need to figure everything out right now.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a lot of that is I think marketing too, right? Because like when you get out of high school, you're supposed to go to college. When you get out of college, you're supposed to have your dream job. When you get out of your dream job, you're supposed to have kids. And like
I thought I was
all
supposed
these
to be
things.
married and having like a kid by now.
Yeah, and it's
I'm
like crazy to think about where life will take you if you are patient and can have grace with yourself and like settle in to life. Like you have to enjoy and be present and not let like outside pressures or outside expectations dictate your life, because if I would have done that, like I would not be in the best place that I've ever been in my entire life right now. And like I can confidently say that, and I would obviously like things are going to go bad, things are going to be hard, but like you said, I can finally feel like I'm the person I was meant to be, like doing the things to help people on this earth.
I think you and I are the same. I wish we found this sport like when we were Paige's age.
So much sooner.
Because this community
Changed my
in
life.
CrossFit, it's really changed my life, and like I wouldn't be where I am without it today, and like I wouldn't have the confidence to do some of my side hustle businesses, like my photography, social media, stuff like that. Like I enjoy fitness photography, and like if it wasn't for Colby over there inviting us to come watch and just play around, and the community is just a really wonderful community without getting too emotional about it, but I really wish I found it sooner. With like I don't know, I just think that a lot of women should try to lift weights or find that, whether it's CrossFit or not, like find a healthy community that invites health and positivity, and like watching, like hyping you up to succeed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll tell you this, I learned a whole different respect for women being in a CrossFit gym, whereas everybody looks at the opposite sex and be like, oh, and you judge how good looking they are, right?
Yep.
I mean, we're just being honest, right? But
That's nature.
I honestly truly feel like that, like I can look at the women in the gym that I coach and work out with completely platonically, not even joking. I have a different kind of respect. Like you're a fellow athlete.
Yeah.
That you and I can go do a competition together.
Yep.
Right. And it really changed my view. Not that I was ever a womanizer. I'm hitting on all these women or
Right.
whatever. But like it no joke. I don't look at the women I coach like I may have 20 years ago. It's completely changed it, right? And it doesn't. I don't even blink an eye when all the women are here in short shorts and a sports bra.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's just.
Yeah.
It's
just another athlete working out.
It's hot.
Yeah, because I mean, none of us think about it that way. Or when all the guys have their shirts off, like we're all just trying to get better together.
Nobody
It's something
cares.
like
We're
that.
just trying to cool off.
I
Yeah.
know. Or like, and that's the thing like about this community too, is like, not that I would say that like people are unfit, but like you see people that may be still struggling with their bodies, like take their shirts off for a
I
workout.
hype people up who
I'm
pop
like,
the top.
take it off.
I hype them
go.
up.
Yeah.
Like if you're ever in a class with me and you like pop your top, I'm like, it's
Let's go.
game time.
It's a
Let's
party
go.
now. Yeah, and it's just like that's the comfort level of people here in this community. Like you said, like the respect for each other. It runs far and wide in this community if people would just give it a try.
So let's do one last thing, Paige. What would you tell, looking back with what you dealt with and the pressure you had to, be 100 pounds or weigh nothing? what would you tell if you could go back and, let's say, tell yourself? What would you say? What advice would you give?
Start doing things that make you uncomfortable, not only physically but mentally. Like whether that's getting up 15 minutes earlier, adding more calories to your diet and stuff like that. Like, you know, with the shorts not fitting and the scale going up, like it's all uncomfortable, but to not stay static as an individual, you have to do stuff that's outside of your comfort zone.
Doesn't sound
And that's in anything.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you.
I think that's why she has so many older friends too.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
What would you tell your younger self?
As Melissa said, just to show yourself grace. You're still learning and trying to figure out everything, and just to make sure, you know, like you're feeling, eat your protein, please. I see people come in all the time that I coach, and I'm like, well, what are you eating? And they're like, not eating anything. I'm like, you need to eat to fuel your body, at point blank. And I think just to appreciate what it can do is what I didn't do before. I love how I can lift heavy, and I love how I can run faster now than I could before when I was just doing strictly cardio. Like my mile time has gotten significantly better. But I would just say show grace, be patient, and then find women who you want to immerse yourself with that are going to lift you up and cheer you on, even in like your darkest moments. Like I always know I can count on all of my girlfriends to be there. Like I know I text her sometimes if I'm having a low point too, and she just listens. And then same thing with me. Like, you know, I'm always here to listen if anyone ever has similar issues as well, because it takes a village and you're not alone. So
Absolutely.
Just show grace, be patient, and then find good people that become family. So
Yeah.
All right, one last thing, because I keep thinking of things. So, and we'll go to Paige again. Do you feel like you have, say, a healthy body image now, or do you still struggle with it? And if you do, is it manageable for you now?
I feel like definitely like 98% better, for sure. Like there's still days where, you know, I wish I had a little more defined abs or whatever, bigger booty, but then I'm just like, snap out of it. We're not that person anymore. We don't think like that, and just. But it's okay to feel like that every once in a while.
Yeah.
absolutely, you're only human.
That's normal. That's human. Yeah.
And you say you still struggle with it too, you think?
I agree with Paige. Like, I mean, it's gotten significantly better. Like, significantly better. Especially too, like I'll even joke with her, like, you know, like I ate just this week I've ate a whole pint of ice cream, and because I was like, you know what, I'm having a hard day, I'm gonna eat a whole pint of ice cream, and I was like, so moved on. Back then that would have like sent me over the edge. Like, but I mean, like, I think it's definitely gotten better, but I mean, there's still days, like I'll text her, I'm human. There's still days where I struggle and everything. And like I said, it takes, you know, just like a friendly, like, you know, like you're doing good. Like keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. And so like check up on your friends. Like, you know, you never know what's going on, and like just listen and be that support system. But it definitely has gotten tremendously better.
Yeah,
Like,
so you've learned how to manage it. You know when you're feeling down, what to do to fix it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Or make yourself feel better.
Even on like my worst days, like I'll still come in to coach, I still come to work out, and it completely rewires everything.
Becomes a switch.
Absolutely. Like, and like you're around people who appreciate you being there. And like I even had one day I didn't want to come, and they're like, oh, I came for you. And I'm like, that's such a compliment.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Especially,
I love when people tell me that.
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay,
it makes
just
my
pump me
day.
up, thank you.
And I tell people, even in my classes, like even if it's one person, they're like, oh, well, I didn't want to come. I'm like, no, please come. I'm like, I would love to see you. So, I mean, yeah, it's gotten so much better. So much better.
Awesome.
I love that.
All right. Well, Melissa, you got anything else you want to get out there? Any last minute thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I just wish this wasn't a conversation of topic, you know? Like,
but it's life, though.
It is life.
Yeah.
It is. And
maybe
I think
if people talked about it more, it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, and I think that you guys are doing a very big thing by like sharing your stories, and letting yourselves be vulnerable, and kind of letting the world know that like they're not alone. Like that's the biggest thing, right? In today's society, is just like everyone's probably going through something similar. Like when you think you're the only one going through something, you're not. Like don't be selfish. So just like talk to people. Like be okay with being vulnerable. Be okay with like sharing thoughts, and like Lauren said, like finding a good group of friends that you can bounce anything off of. Like it really makes a difference to get it out in the world. And even if it's a therapist, like even if it's someone that's not your friend, like we got to stop like putting all of these expectations and like weights and things inside. And that can go for guys too, I'd imagine. Like you just gotta talk about it. And like I may laugh at you a little bit, but it's all out of good love. Like, and if you know me, then you know that's because I love you, and I'm like thankful that you're talking to me. But it's gotta be said, and and I'm glad that you guys are brave enough to share your stories and share like probably some of your like weakest moments with people that you don't even know.
The Nutella.
The Nutella.
I'm never gonna look at Nutella the same.
I'm getting you a Nutella.
Either. It makes me sick.
I'm getting you a sticker, Lauren, with a big red X on it.
But I'm sure like Paige probably feels the same way. Don't be afraid to talk to us about it too, especially if you feel that way. I think we both have grown up a lot since then. I mean, even you still have. I mean, I still forget you're 19 too. But I mean, we're comfortable talking about it to the point now, and I want to help.
Yeah.
So
because you'll find that last whole thing. You'll find that you may not have experienced yet in coaching, but you'll find sometimes you feel like you're also a psychiatrist.
You are.
Because people will talk to you about
a gym owner. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
there are some things I know about
some
y'all.
of the things that
It's
people
funny.
have told me, and
Probably
I'm like
shouldn't
in
know.
shock, and I've had
Yes.
to walk away.
Yes.
Where I'm like, hey,
Drew
that's
has
not-
said
I
the
don't
same
know.
thing to me.
Yeah.
You
Or you just
probably
straight
should
up
go
say,
talk-
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Like
Paige, we had that moment this week.
yeah, like like even if you ask me about nutrition, I say I can give you my take on it, but I'm probably not the guy because I just can't, or you're gonna get some of the craziest
Yeah.
things. When we turn this off, I'll tell you about a recent one that I don't want to put out there that I was like shocked when I heard this.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
anyway, so we good?
I think we got it all
Ladies
out.
got anything
Yeah.
last?
No.
Yeah.
Eat your protein.
Do you want to do the honors for us, you guys?
Are we doing the stay gritty?
Yes. Give us a good sign off.
Stay gritty, guys. Eat your protein.
Go ahead. What do you got?
Much love.
All right, guys. So podcast wrapped up.
Yeah.
We're recording an extra one next week.
Yes.
We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about the games. Our take from it, mine from TV, hers
I'm
from
excited.
being there.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll even have a guest.
Yeah.
We'll see
Who
what
knows?
happens.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I would love
What
to-
does the wind
All right.
take
Can we
us?
please mention that guy in the parking lot working out by himself?
I thought you were going to say
Right,
something
the other
else.
story. So
Keep
with
that between us.
Check it
I
out.
would never.
If you make sure you like this video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe because I see everybody watching it.
Yeah, but nobody's subscribing.
Click the damn button. So with that, all right, ladies, thanks
Happy
for coming.
Friday.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.